down by 3. He'll try to tie it. Points. 57. Lillard. Paulie Stein. Shot clock at 7. Pascal the fake. The drive. Oh, what defense? Lillard. Trent.
I'm speechless, man. I'm speechless. Oh my goodness. Damian Lillard just dropped 61 points on the Golden State Warriors. That was epic. That was amazing, man. That was absolutely amazing. Dame just absolutely went off. We're going to get hyped in the chat right now. We're going to get hyped on this stream. Gotta savor these moments, man. Wow, that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. Lillard putting the team on his back. I don't care about all the extra noise, man. I don't care about any of the extra noise right now. I don't care that it was against the Golden State Warriors and they only had like one good NBA player. I don't care that, I don't want to hear about the rest of the season. I want to hear about the opponent. We'll talk about that later. Right now, I'm in awe because Damian Lillard just popped off. That was insane, man. You guys got to savor these moments. I'm savoring games like this because there will be a day where we don't get to watch this greatness, man. And I'll look back on these moments fondly, dude. Like, that was insane. That was absolutely insane. We'll get Eric Brant in on the show in a little bit. And we'll just chill with you guys for a bit. One thing I got to do is I got to move the mooches in the background.
Used to these big moments.
We all use our phones very differently. We need a great network all the time.
Everyone in your family is different.
These two are always gaming, and this one's always on FaceTime.
So Verizon has plans to mix and match starting at $35 and up to $700.
There we go. That's better. All right. My background was messy. 99-cent donation from Jason Lee with the super sticker. I appreciate the donation. That was my reaction to Dame. Every shot Dame hit, that was my reaction. Oh my goodness, man. So, I mean, like, there was multiple plays where he got fouled by Hassan Whiteside. Did you guys notice that, man? There was multiple plays where Hassan set a screen and started his roll and, like, ran into the back of Dame, and Dame was looking around for the call, but it was his own man fouling him, and he was still knocking down shots. It was almost like Whiteside knew, if I bump him from behind, he's so on fire, and he can make shots with contact. It was almost as if Whiteside thought, if I run into him from behind, he's going to make it. Because for whatever reason, when Dame's pulling up, going to his right like that, if he gets hit from behind, man, he hits a lot of these shots, and it boggles my mind. Like, I don't know how you sprint into a shot, dribbling to your right hand, which is harder to pull up off of if you're a right-handed shooter. It's harder to pull up going to your dominant hand. But he's going to his dominant hand, pulling up out of a sprint, getting ran into from behind, shooting it from like 30 feet. It's so insanely hard. I played college basketball. I can kind of shoot a little bit. But, like, I can't make that shot consistently in a gym from a high school three-point line. Like, like, that's such a hard shot to hit. I don't think people realize how hard of a shot that is to hit, man. Like, just from practicing that type of shot, shooting around, like, it gives me the perspective, like, man, pulling up like that, even without contact, even doing it 50% from that range is insanely hard. You'll catch me airballing half of them, and I can kind of shoot a little bit. So this dude is consistently doing it, going to his right, getting ran into from behind, pulling up, going to his right. Like, that is such an insanely hard shot. And I feel like he makes it look easier than it is. Like, we just expect him to knock these down. I don't understand how somebody can consistently hit that shot, but he gets into these zones, man, where he pulls up on these shots, gets ran to behind, and it doesn't matter. It does, like, oh my goodness, I'm in awe. That was an amazing performance by Damian Lillard. That was absolutely awesome, man. That was absolutely awesome. It was awesome to see Dame pop off and actually get a win this time when he dropped 60. This time he dropped 61, but he had that 60-point game to start the season, if you guys remember, against the Brooklyn Nets, and they lost that game. In the mood after that game was like, what the hell? Dame dropped 60 and we still lost this game. Now we can actually be hyped about him dropping a 60-point game. This time 61. He keeps one-upping himself. He had that 59-point game a couple years ago. Then he had 60 to start this year, and then 61 just now. So just an absolutely awesome performance from Dame on national TV. I know it was two teams that were struggling injured, but that might have been one of the best nationally televised games of the year. Like, if you're an NBA fan, NBA fans, I hope they watch that game so they can realize, one, the Portland Trail Blazers record is not Damian Lillard's fault because it took overtime to beat a beat-up Golden State Warriors team. Two, I'll invite you in a second, Eric. I'm going on my spiel, then I'll invite you because you'd be literally sitting here listening to me go. Two, I lost my train of thought. I'll get Eric in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, man. I was just going on my little intro. It's still intro time. You guys aren't even letting me go on my spiel, man. But yeah, like, that's the thing. I see all these Thunder fans on Twitter talking trash about Dame. Oh, Russ is better than Damian Lillard because look at their records. That's stupid logic. I shouldn't even be referencing this, but I hope people that really think that, oh, Dame is overrated, look at his team's record, I hope they watch that game, because even with him playing like an absolute god, they still needed overtime to beat the Golden State Warriors. So that was absolutely insane, man. His teammates struggled all game, but Dame put that team on his back, and you absolutely love to see it. That was a great game. I'm saying NBA fans should have watched this game because even the Warriors were hitting some tough shots. You had Alec Burks hitting some clutch shots, hitting some twisting fadeaway threes. You had big plays by both teams. You had you had some highlight plays. You had Hassan Whiteside's putback. You had Melo with a putback. Like, I don't even know if you want to call it a dunk, but that was an exciting play just because it's Melo. You had Simons with that huge block. You had it was a decently played game in terms of, like, big plays, you know what I mean? Portland, outside of Damian Lillard, they couldn't buy a shot, but that just led to Damian Lillard having to step up. So, anyways, I'll give Eric a call. We'll bring Eric Brant in, and he can go off too. I'm down to do that right now. Let me connect my headphones. All right, Eric, you're on. Go off, bro.
What's up, man? What an amazing game by Dame.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I was just responding to someone asking when I was going to come on. I wasn't trying to tell you.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah, usually I like to go on my intro, especially
absolutely.
when it's a hyped intro, and just flow straight. It's flow for the camera a little bit. And
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, someone just asked me, like, go on, man, go on. I was like, I'll wait till Tori invites me.
They're like, bring me Eric. I'm like, what? Is my hyped reaction to Dame not enough for you guys? You guys are begging me for Eric in the middle of this?
Dude, I can't believe there's people out there that think Dame's not an all-star.
Dude, I wanted to go on a rant about that. I was going to let you react first. Let's not even get to that yet, because I got a lot to say about that,
all right.
man.
But yeah, just, obviously, franchise record, so this kind of goes without saying, but just one of the all-time great performances by a Blazer in an individual game. Mm-hmm. It's kind of sad that we needed him every 61 of that. Man, the other players just could not hit a shot. I think that was like 14 missed threes in a row before they actually hit one, other than Dame. And like Trent was freaking off all game. Simons was all off until he hit his toughest one of the night.
I know. That's the one he hits. He got fouled on that too.
And he got injured. I thought Dame got fouled on, I think it was the one to get to 57.
I think Whiteside ran into the back of him. I think it might have been Whiteside because he was doing that consistently.
Yeah. Man, like, I often say, like, to try, like, I want to see the defense try new things, but double teaming Dame that far away from the basket like they were doing for a while is definitely not the strategy to do.
Yeah, because if he can get out of that, he's going downhill, and he still has, if it's that high and he gets out of that double team, he can still raise up from three, or he can just attack the rim. So they overextended, and Dame actually used that against them.
But he made some difficult shots too. That one he made to tie the game, to tie the game in regulation. That was just him making a shot that was with a guy in his face. Little disappointed in Hazonia, especially tonight. I mean, he's been bad this season, but that was especially bad.
Oh, we're not going to focus on the bad right now, though. I know. Want to hear your hype. See, that's why I let it off with my hype. I got hyped for 5 minutes.
But it led to Dame getting more points.
Yeah. Dame had to drop 61 tonight for us to win. You know what I mean? None of those points were like, oh, he's just running up his point total because of the team is up 20. It's a little bit different when it comes in a game where he had to drop 61 in order for us to simply win and win in overtime. I kind of wanted the game to go into double OT. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish Burks hit that shot. 70? Yeah, I wanted Dame to get 110. To be honest, I wanted him to pass Wilt. Like, I was down for 7 OTs because, that dude is in such great shape. Screw it. We're already going to run him into the ground in a tough season anyway. Why not let him play 100 minutes in a 10 overtime game and drop 100 points? I'd been down to see that. That was a fun game, though, man.
I know you didn't want to talk about anything bad, but why did we drop the big on that play when they need a 3 to tie?
I don't know. That was silly. We'll get into that later. Dame was freaking amazing. And
did he finish with 10 or did he get his 11th three?
11. That last three was for 11. He was 11 for 20 from the 3-point line. So awesome. He did shoot a lot of shots, but he was right around 500 or 50%. So like you can't really complain about his shot selection that much. Yep.
That one he hit in the first half on the 2-for-1. Where he pulled up like a step past half court. That was awesome too.
Yeah. Oh, that was a 2-for-1 too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you have somebody like that, screw it, shoot the 2-for-1. He's able to shoot well enough from deep in order to get a good 2-for-1, even if he's shooting from the damn parking lot. But that was awesome. Jason Lee, Sorry, I didn't see your donation. Chat was kind of popping off. He dropped a $2 donation saying, that was seriously a 2K performance, LMAO. Yeah, that was a 2K performance. That would have been impressive even if it was in 2K. So thank you for the $2 donation.
He had a 99-cent one earlier. I don't know if you got that.
I got him.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the best post-game stream we've had in a while. But I mean, dude, I just watch these games and it's just like I just try and savor these moments just because they're not gonna Dame's gonna retire someday and we're just gonna look back on moments like these. We're gonna kind of forget all the surrounding circumstances, all the negative noise about the season, and we're gonna remember how it feels like to watch somebody like Damian Lillard absolutely go off for us. Just amazing performance, amazing like spectacle to watch. Dude, like that's the thing. So I savor these moments when they happen.
Yeah, thank God it happened in a win, right?
Oh, I know. Dude, I didn't. That's the thing, too, is just like, are we going to really have another, like, Brooklyn Nets post-game show? At least at that point, though, we still thought, we're going for home court advantage and whatnot. So that was even tougher. So it would have been a little bit different because of how much, we're in the middle of the season now, and we already know the season's just going to be a giant struggle as it is with how many players we have out. But, yeah, at least we won this game so we could be hyped because it's always a weird feeling when somebody has a performance like that and you're hyped about it, but then it's also in a loss. It's just kind of conflicting. So, yeah, thank God they pulled out this game. I mean, hopefully they get healthier. Next game they probably got Trevor Ariza in there. I think CJ might be back by that game. So,
hopefully Simons is okay.
Hopefully Simons is okay. That's the thing, too, is a lot of these guys struggled. You know what I mean? Like, these guys don't normally shoot this bad. My phone screen is bugging out. I dropped my phone and cracked my phone screen, and now it's bugging out. Yeah, I need to get a new phone, man. It's bugging. It's bugging out. It's all flashing and stuff. But I'll grind through it and read you guys the box score. We had I mean, you look at the other guys and what they shot.
Whiteside had great numbers. That was so funny when I thought he was like seriously hurt, but he just took a nut shot.
Oh, I know. That's the thing. When it seemed like the way he was laying, I was like, he probably got hit in the nuts. And I knew if I went on Twitter, there's going to be a lot of Blazer fans being like, oh, of course, Whiteside's now out for the season. This is just our luck. Like, like doomsday type stuff. Just because, and I don't even blame him. We've dealt with so many injuries all season long that it's kind of like you see a guy go down and it's like, great, here we go, next one down. Like, everybody's gonna, every big guy we have, like, that's the thing. If he got hurt, we would be left with nobody taller than 6'8". I mean, unless you count Gabriel, I guess, when he gets in here. But
we got Moses Brown right now too.
Oh, Moses Brown, I guess. I don't even count those guys. Yeah, that's the thing, though. So I went on Twitter right after that. Like thinking, okay, he probably got hit in the balls just to see like people's reactions, and I don't blame him, but it was also kind of funny. Like he just got hit in the nuts. But yeah, I mean, hopefully he's okay. All right, hopefully Simons is okay, but hopefully Whiteside is okay. I don't know if he has any kids, but he might not have the chance anymore because that knee was rough, dude. That knee hurt me. I feel like every male out there watching, that knee hurt them a little bit. Watching that knee, because that was like a violent knee, dude. Oh.
Well, he's got the best nut smasher of all time on his team, so he probably learned from the best.
I know. It was funny, because that was Paschal, right? That did that?
Yeah, I think so.
It was funny, because earlier in the game, they were like, Paschal gets to learn from the very best, Draymond Green. What a great mentor for Eric Paschal. And then a couple minutes later, dude just drives his knee. Oh, my goodness. That was funny.
My daughter's laughing at me because I'm talking about nut smashing.
Oh my god! Yeah. She should put in headphones or something because we're talking about nut smashing on this.
She does have headphones on. She's playing that Star Wars game that my other son.
Gotcha. Damn, you're a Star Wars family. But yeah, I mean, also Dame had 7 assists, 10 rebounds. It would have been awesome for him to get a 60-point triple-double. Yeah. If only Gary Trent Jr.
Shots.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, Dame doesn't drop 60 unless we go into overtime, so it's probably either one or the other. But just looking at the shooting, man, here, like everybody else was pretty rough. At least like perimeter player wise. I mean, you had Anthony Simons 1 for 9, Gary Trent Jr. 1 for 10, so they were 2 for 19, and that was with Simons hitting the last 3 he took. That was a very rough shooting night. Simons, I think. Okay, so here's my theory on Simons as to why his shot's struggling. There's 2 reasons, I think. One, he shoots too flat. A lot of times it hits front rim or it hits back rim hard and comes off. So like either he's not getting it over the rim, and if he does, it's so flat that it's hitting back rim hard and coming off. Dame even said that when he was injured during college, he would sit in a chair and shoot shots, and that helped him improve his arc because he had to shoot it up because he was sitting in a chair because he broke his foot. So he was in a boot, so he'd sit in a chair and work on his shot, and that helped him with his arc. I think Simons needs more arc on his shot. I think that's the one thing he's struggling with there. And then I think a lot of his misses left and right comes from he has a thumb flick. He kind of flicks his thumb through, and the thing is, Steph Curry has a thumb flick a little bit. It doesn't necessarily completely hinder your shot, but it can at the same time. You know what I mean? It's not. Let me word that better. It's not something that will make you a bad shooter or will like stop you from becoming a great shooter, because Steph Curry does it, but it's something that can be hard to overcome, and it's hard to be consistent with that, if that makes sense. So I think he shoots flat and he has a bit of a thumb flick. So hopefully he can improve his form, because he has a nice follow through. I think he has a nice rhythm to his shot. Like I think he could be a really, really good shooter if he just improved his arc and maybe reduce that thumb flick a little bit. I feel like those are the 2 changes he needs to make, but he really struggled tonight.
I feel like his threes haven't been this way for the most part, but all his 2-point shots, I feel like he's twisting his body too much when he shoots, and he's not square to the basket. I think he needs to correct that a little bit too.
I mean, doesn't Dame do that too, though?
Well, he does do that, but like Simons is like exaggerating it while he's doing it, if that makes sense. Dame tries to do that because he knows he has to shoot at different angles to get it up over the big guy. But Simons can raise up pretty high. Like, he doesn't need to do that, but sometimes he's afraid of contact and he kind of shies away and twists his body in ways he doesn't need to. If you just pull up and shoot like a 10-footer instead of like a 6 or 7 foot contested shot, like, I think he'd get a little better. But yeah, he's really struggling bad right now.
Dro said, once you're in the league, there isn't a way to change Ant's whack-ass jumper. Did you not watch CJ McCollum his rookie year until now? CJ McCollum's shot has changed much more than I'm saying Anthony Simons' shot needs to change. He literally needs to change his thumb on his offhand and raise his follow through a little bit more, have a little bit more arc. That's literally all he needs to do. Those are very, very small changes. Shooters do them all the time, especially in the NBA. Like, shooters do them all the time. They have professional shooting coaches. They have, they have the best of the best, supposedly. So there's no reason why he couldn't make those couple of changes over a summer. If he dedicated himself to it, he could really improve his jumper. Part of it, I mean, like, he can shoot like this and shoot better than he's shooting now. We've seen him get hot and locked in, but I feel like that's just kind of what's making him struggle right now with his shot. And I just wish Anthony was hitting more shots, man. I just want to see that guy shooting, like, hitting. Trent, we saw absolutely go off in that OKC game, and then tonight he airballed like 3 times. And that's the question I have with Trent is, like, can he be consistent as a shooter? I feel like he'll be a guy, I don't know. I feel like he might just be a guy who he'll get hot and he'll help you win some games, but then, like, a lot of times he'll just struggle from the 3-point arc. I don't know why that is. He just seems like he's just too streaky. He's not really like a pure shooter yet. And some of that might just be, age. He might become more consistent. Right. That's my hope. But those two for 19, those guys really struggled. I think Anthony had a couple good cuts because Melo was getting double teamed. Anthony had a couple good cuts. I think Gary Trent Jr. had a good cut. Like, those guys just need a cut when they're shooting poorly, They
both had a couple of nice passes too.
Yeah. I just, when guys are shooting like that, combined 2 for 19, even if they get an open 3, which they were getting open 3s. They were 2 for 19 on mostly open 3s. When they get open 3s and they're shooting that badly on them, getting another open 3 isn't a good shot. But I always hear the narrative, oh, they're getting good shots. No, they're 2 for 19 from 3. That's not a good shot if you're shooting a little over 10% on that shot. So that's the thing. I wish they'd, instead of shooting 19 threes, I wish we'd kind of adapt to them shooting poorly and have them moving a little bit more, have them cutting a little bit more and stuff like that. Because that's the thing. Anthony going towards the rim, if he attacks it aggressively, like, he has bounce and he can get up and he's quick. That's the thing. I wish we'd use him a little bit more as a cutter instead of a spot-up threat. But that's just kind of like a system thing that I was thinking about during this game.
Yeah, it's difficult because it's almost like they both, well, maybe not Trent. He just hasn't had the consistent minutes that Simons has had this year, but Simons definitely has hit a wall. It's been that way for a while. He had some flashes of maybe getting out of it, but obviously hasn't been able to sustain that. But this was a year where he was going to have growing pains, but it's just tough with our depleted roster right now. We can't really afford to let him take his time. Like, he needs to contribute. So we're kind of stuck with him right now. Either he's going to have to start hitting shots or it's gonna continue to hurt us like it did tonight. But there's nothing really we can do about it. He has to play right now. There's no other options really.
Yeah. Russell First Round Exit Westbrook sent me a donation on PayPal. He said, I could have gone to the game tonight for $5. So since I effed up so bad, I'm going to give you the money. Use it better than I did. A dime for every point Dame scored. I think he sent me $6.10. It came out to, nice. I think PayPal took like 50 cents of that. So that's like 5 points worth. But I appreciate the donation, Zach. Yeah, man. The ticket prices were cheap for this game. I kind of wish I went. I would have just went alone though, so I was like, screw it. If I might have went to this game if I wasn't doing post-game shows and stuff. I definitely haven't gone to as many games because, I'm here with you guys. I'm here bringing you guys this awesome post-game show. So, that's not a complaint at all or anything. Didn't want it to sound like that, but appreciate the donation, bro. Yeah, man, I mean, I wonder what Dame's scoring average is after this game. I'm going to do some quick math. Let me look it up right now. Let me look it up, and I'll do some quick math for you guys. Because he was averaging 21 or 27.1 points per game and 7.6 assists per game going into this game, which is career highs in both categories. That's the thing. People talking about, oh, Dame's having a down year. No, he's not. He's literally having his most efficient season of his career high true shooting percentage. He's having the best scoring year of his career if you just go off of points per game, and he's having his best playmaking year of his career. I think he has the best assist to turnover ratio of his career, and he has the highest assist per game mark of his career. So that's the thing. People talking about Dame having a down season. He's not. He's having the best season of his career. It just so happens to be coming in a season that's just, has some injuries, the team has some style of play issues that I don't think he really, it's not his fault. There's been other issues that have held back this team. It's definitely not because of Dame. So here we go. So now he went from 27.1 points per game to 27.9 points per game. So that's an insane jump, especially past midway. He's averaging 28 and 7.5. So you're telling me, all right, here's my rant that I promised you guys a little bit earlier. You're telling me, Kendrick Perkins, media members out there, that a guy averaging 28 points per game and 7.5 assists per game is not... It's
on
not
60% true shooting percentage.
On 60, he's doing it efficiently too. On 60% true shooting percentage. When he doesn't have as much talent around him, so he's being doubled now more than ever. So he's doing a lot of this 1-on-2. You're telling me that guy does not deserve to be an NBA All-Star. That's like some of the... I've heard this type of stuff in the past, and that's just some of the typical Dame disrespect that he always gets. You know what I mean? In past years... last year it was like he wasn't being hyped up that much for us having a winning record. It was just one of the rare times that, we didn't have to hear, his team isn't doing well, right? But dude, so at some point, you got to realize this dude's team isn't doing well for other reasons other than him, because he's averaging 28 points per game efficiently and averaging 7.5 assists. I get it. Okay, you got to reward teams who are doing better in a way, but that's more of a tiebreaker. That's not the number one criteria. The number one criteria is, okay, what is this player doing? Okay, it's an individual award. You don't invite teams to the All-Star game. You don't invite whole teams of people or whole starting lineups or anything like that. It's for individuals to recognize what they're doing individually, and then you take the team stuff into account second. Okay, there's no way that a dude averaging 28 points per game and 7.5 assists, doing it efficiently, doesn't belong in the All-Star game. And a guy like I see people saying Brandon Ingram belongs in the All-Star game, but not Damian Lillard, whose team has a better record than the Pelicans and is having more impressive stats than Brandon Ingram. It's like, since Brandon Ingram is the shiny new guy on the block who's having he's really improved this year, let's put him in. We saw it a few years ago with Lou Williams had his blow up, and Dame was averaging 26 and 6, and Lou Williams was 20 and 5 off the bench, and the Blazers had an equal record with the Clippers or close to it, but people were saying Dame, the TNT guys were saying that they wouldn't put Dame in the All-Star game. Instead, they put Lou freaking Williams, just because he was kind of new. That level of production was new for him. Meanwhile, Dame has been doing this for years. So people are drunk if they're saying Dame doesn't deserve to be an All-Star. That was just my little mini rant on that, because that annoys the hell out of me, seeing some stupid stuff like that. I think, me and media members and everybody who I've ever disagreed with that's a fan of the Blazers, I feel like we can all agree on that more than anything. Dame is an all-star. What the hell? Why are we even having this conversation? It's stupid that people think that he's not deserving of being in the all-star game.
And I know it's supposed to be just for this season, but there has to be a bit of track record involved. Dame's coming off of it, leading his team or taking a team to the Western Conference Finals last year, and Trae Young is in his second year and has never been to the playoffs and stuff like that. That has to factor in a little bit. If you're just comparing those two, yes, we've talked a lot about the injuries and their effect, but if you watch that game tonight, Dame literally had no help other than Whiteside putting up big numbers. But he basically carried a team on his back and won a game. And he's had to do that pretty much all season. So yeah, I just don't think there's any way he doesn't deserve to be in the All-Star game once he's established that he is an All-Star. There's no reason to believe that he's not an All-Star anymore because of his performance this season when, like, everything you mentioned is stat-wise, they're better than years past when he's been an All-Star. So if he's been a definite All-Star in years past, he should continue to be an All-Star.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So Chat's been going crazy with this argument over Dame versus Penny Hardaway. All
Penny
chat.
Hardaway? Why are we discussing Dame versus Penny Hardaway?
I don't know how it got started, but it's gotten pretty heated.
Dame is better than Penny Hardaway. What the hell? What? That's the thing. When chat's popping off like this, obviously I'm not going to see every comment, especially when I'm thinking about what I'm saying to this level. Yeah. But like, how did that even start? Who even brought up that comparison? Like, why is that even a discussion? The most points per game Penny Hardaway ever averaged was 21.7 points per game. His most assists per game was 7.2. Dame's averaging 28 and 7.5. The most efficient, okay, he had his season of 60 true shooting percentage, but like Penny Hardaway was good for like 2 seasons, 23, 24. Then his production fell off.
He got hurt. Yeah,
he got hurt. So, I mean, like, so he had a couple good seasons that still were anywhere close to what Dame has done. Maybe like Penny Hardaway's best season was a little bit better than Dame's, rookie season or second year when he still had Aldridge, but like Dame after Aldridge, that's not even a comparison we should be making. Like there's worlds different, man. I don't understand that. So, Penny just seemed better. What are you talking about? What the hell, bro?
Penny, you weren't around during this time, but
I've seen Penny Hardaway highlights.
Yeah. So Penny was awesome, and he got propped up because he was on that cool Magic team with Shaq, and like everyone became like fans of Penny and Shaq and all those guys. And he had Little Penny, then the commercials, which were hilarious. And he was awesome, but once he got hurt, he was never the same player really again. He had like one season after that where he played 80 games. The rest of them were all like 60 or less, I believe. Yeah. Like he just was never the same player again. So I don't know if he could have developed into someone better than Dame, but definitely because of the injury, he never had a chance to be.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's got to provide that context if we're gonna, because I saw somebody ask me the question and didn't provide any of that context. Yeah, maybe he might have been as good as him. I still have a hard time believing that, though. Still have a hard time believing that, man. Dame's insane, dude. Like Dame's a future Hall of Famer, and if he's not, that's criminal. Like I saw a discussion the other day about, is Dame a future Hall of Famer? He might not be first ballot, I guess, but like Dame is deserving to be a future Hall of Famer. You're talking about like some of the moments he's had in the playoffs and the stats he's put up and the impact he's had on this franchise and the community. I mean, like, I don't know, you can base your Hall of Fame votes off of different types of things. I know he hasn't been to an NBA Finals, but he's been to a Western Conference Finals. I mean, there's guys in the Hall of Fame who haven't been to the NBA Finals, haven't won a ring, and like nobody would question them, but people were like using that against Dame too much. Dame's a future Hall of Famer, he should be, and if he's not, that's criminal.
I feel like this era is crazy. Like, so that we of course had like the heyday of the NBA, like in the 80s, and then towards the end of the Jordan run, the talent kind of dipped, and then after Jordan left, there was a major dip for a while. With like overall level of quality players, but I feel like lately it's gone back up to where like there's so many good players in the NBA. And some people get lost in the shuffle. It's hard to, because like some people are like, oh, you're not a Hall of Famer if you're not like if you're never the best player at your position in the NBA at any time, or things like that. But like there's so many good players right now, it's hard to just go off of that.
Could you imagine if Dame was doing this 10 years ago? He would
Yeah.
be. I feel like he would have been considered a top 3 player in the league. You know what I mean? And I feel like I don't know. I feel like the NBA has gotten better in the past like 10 years or so, just because, you know, like you said, a lot more just insane players. Imagine Giannis 10 years, you know, in like the late 2000s, 2006, 2007, 2008. Giannis would have been insane, even more so than he is now.
So, have you ever looked at Basketball References Hall of Fame probability?
No.
It's at Dame's at 47.9%.
What?
So right about 50-50.
Yeah,
but obviously, I mean, he still has a ways to go.
That's just yeah. I mean, yeah.
But
that's kind of.
If you look at Dame's similarity scores through 7 years, basically measuring like win shares compared to like people throughout history, this is the list of 10 players they name. Magic Johnson, Reggie Miller, Terry Porter, George Gervin, Kevin Johnson, Sidney Moncrief, Clyde Drexler, Jimmy Jones, Manu Ginobili, and Gary Payton.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a pretty good list. So yeah, I would say if he continues that career arc, there's no doubt.
Yeah, I feel like that 47% is like if he retired today, you know.
Right,
I feel like that's kind of a communal to live. I always say that word wrong. Damn. But I feel like that'd be if he stopped playing today, 47% or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, so Penny Hardaway was like bigger, and he wasn't as big as Matty Johnson, but that was part of his charm, was like he was a taller point guard who could do things that smaller point guards can't do. But he couldn't shoot as well as Dame. He wasn't a good 3-point shooter, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I mean, he had different skill set, and he was a really fun player to watch. But yeah, it was just a shame that his career got cut so short.
Yeah, for sure. It's just funny thinking back, like comparing him to Brandon Roy, what Brandon Roy did. Brandon Roy was like as well renowned as like Dame is now, I feel like, even though Dame is much more impressive than Brandon Roy was to me. He's just much more impressive, you know, better playmaker, better all around scorer, I feel like.
And so Penny shot career 31.6 from 3 on 2.3 attempts per game. So just a completely different player.
Yeah, he was also 6'7". So
yeah,
and a little bit easier. If Dame was 6'7",
yeah,
Dame would be like if Dame was 6'7", he would possibly end up being, if he like played like he does, but was just, you know, gave him 5 extra inches, he would probably be maybe a top 10 player of all time, I think. Dude would be insane. You talk about how like well he finishes going to the rim. Like, imagine if you added 5 inches to that. That would be insane. So. Yeah, Dame over Penny. Dame over, like, not even a question, man. Not even a question.
So I've seen a lot of questions about the guys we traded for, why they didn't play tonight, or when they will play. So the trade can't be official until tomorrow. So I'm assuming the physicals will be done either tomorrow or Wednesday. I'm guessing, since they had to wait 3 days, that the respective players are in Sacramento or Portland and ready to take those physicals as soon as the trade is announced. And then, chat, just don't bring up, they're just going to bring up random names the rest of the chat.
Oh my God.
Versus Dave. So I'm assuming those 3 guys will be ready to play on Thursday. So yeah, that's probably the plan. And
here's a question for you first. Can the Blazer coaching staff talk with those guys right now? I assume they could. They could communicate with those guys right now, right?
I don't know if they can until the trade is actually official. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's just weird. The whole trade was weird timing. Weird that they would make it 3 days before the guys even trade eligible. Yeah.
Because if they could talk with those guys, I mean, those guys are probably watching film on our some of our sets and that type of stuff somehow.
Swanigan, it's no changes since he's been here, so.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the way we're playing is not hard for those guys to fit in. Like, we run a couple sets. They're basic sets, like, We don't really do anything advanced. We play a lot of ISO ball. Like our defense, we really only run one scheme, and it's not like a super complex scheme. So that's the thing. I know we're going to hear, oh, well, you can't expect Trevor Ariza to come in and play well, or, you can't expect this team to be better with Ariza in here. I think this team will be better, though, because it's not like some people will blame, the chemistry thing. The chemistry thing. Oh, they're still learning this offense. Literally, it could be game 80 and it'll be, oh, well, Ariza just doesn't know how to fit in. He's just learning this offense still. But it's like, it's not that complex to learn, man. And Ariza's been around the block a few times. And a lot of these coaches recycle sets that other coaches use. And we run a lot of ISO ball anyway, and our defense is simple to pick up, I think. I think Ariza will come and be ready to play. He won't need like a ton of practices to be ready to step on the floor and possibly contribute. So I do expect him to play Thursday, and I don't think it will be something where he's just completely lost out there at all. I think he could fit in. Even like Gabriel. I expect Gabriel to come in and play Thursday. I would play him over Hazonia, until you see what you got with this kid. Play him over Hazonia. You know what you got with Hazonia. That dude is frustrating as hell to watch. Hazonia drove me crazy today. He drove me crazy last game. The dude just has no awareness defensively, and it's almost like he's not even trying to focus defensively. And
that's a huge strength of Ariza, is his awareness on defense, knowing where to be, his help defense, all that kind of stuff. He's getting a little old to do it super effectively, but he used to be a good perimeter defender as well. But
yeah. Whiteside said his junk still hurts. Yeah, that's the thing. I expect him to come and be ready to play. But like Gabriel, I'd play him over pretty much any of the forwards we have right now until we just to see what he has. Because just watching his G League film, it's not much, and it's a lot of it's just highlights and stuff. But it looks like he might be a better shooter than Horde, Little, and Hazonia. He's shooting 46% from the three-point line in the G League right now, I think, shooting 3 or 4 attempts a game. So, obviously it's the G League, but it's still an NBA-length three-point line. If he can come in here and, hit a shot better than those three, I think he'd already fit in better because those three don't really bring anything else to the table. Little brings hustle and defense and rebounding, but, his three-point shot's so bad that it kind of almost cancels out with him. I think Gabriel could come in and be better than those guys. He's also bigger than those guys, 9'1" standing reach. He's more suited to play power forward center spot than Hazonia, Little, or Horde. So I expect Gabriel to play Thursday. I hope Stotts plays him right away. I wouldn't play Hazonia, honestly, because that dude's been bad the past few games. I mean, I'm just tired of seeing that dude fall asleep on defense and not focus and not box out and not do any of the little things. He literally doesn't do little things at all. You're talking about players you'll look at some players and be like, oh, that dude's really good at doing the little things. Hazonia doesn't do one little thing out there on the court. And when you look at okay, well maybe, somebody who doesn't do the little things, you expect them to contribute somehow though. Maybe they hit threes, maybe they shoot, maybe they play good on-ball defense or something. And Hazonia doesn't do any of that. He has been the worst player on the court the past 3-4 games. And that's with us playing Jalen Horde. We played Moses Brown tonight. I know Moses Brown, the Warriors went on a run with Brown in, but I think that was mostly due to Hazonia's defense. Yeah, for sure. So, and then he comes second half, he comes in the game, throws a bad pass, and then he's running side by side. I think it was with Chris down the floor. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he just starts flailing and lets Chris run right around him and gets a pass for a lay-in. So he turns the ball over on one end and doesn't get back in time to get his guy on, and it's like a 4-point turnaround right there. It's you can't make those mistakes in a game like this. Yeah. So RIP Blazers asked earlier if a game like this could affect the organization's thinking on whether they make a trade to save money or to bring in talent. Mm-hmm. I hope the answer to that is yes. Not sure what they're thinking. I mean, it obviously couldn't hurt. If you see Dame play like that and you don't think, man, I'd love to see him with some better players out there, then I don't know what we're even doing. What's the point of even having a guy like Dame if that's not the goal, is to bring more better players around him? Mm-hmm. So I hope this is a game that they're
you know what, Dame's in his prime right now. We're wasting this year if we don't do anything. Let's make not only a trade that can help us now, but a trade that'll help us for the next couple years as well, and not worry about the money as much. But yeah, I'm afraid that that's not going to be the directive. But
hey, we can save money and still make a trade that accomplishes that. I don't think people like that's the thing. I saw Chad Doings rant like, "Oh, we're just gonna save money and we're not gonna do anything that's like meaningful in the future." It's like, why does saving money mean that we can't do anything meaningful in the future? We can trade for somebody and make a trade where we save money and still get back pieces for the future. Like my go-to trade idea right now is. And remember, we can still trade Trevor Ariza. I don't think it's completely out of the window that we end up trading Trevor Ariza at the deadline. He might come in, play 2 weeks, and then get traded. Especially considering the team in the way it's constructed right now. You can't combine Ariza's salary with other players, but if you're matching part of what you're bringing in with Ariza and then part of what you're bringing in with another player, you can do that. Or there's kind of ways you can combine other players to him without having to basically you can't aggregate his salary. It's kind of complex, but my go-to trade idea right now is let me find it.
Yeah, I don't think that one's realistic at all. But
Why?
you can say it. I just don't think any of the teams
you don't think
do
we
that.
could get Bielitsa for our first round pick this year and a second round pick?
I just think if he was a possibility, we would have made that trade for Bielitsa included instead of.
Well, maybe
Ariza.
it's not available at the moment. Maybe they're kind of waiting to see what offers they get. You know what I mean? Like a lot of teams wait until the trade deadline to make trades. So it's hard to say, oh, we would have gotten him by now.
No, I'm just saying it's just kind of weird to include a team we just completed a trade with when it was for different guys.
I don't think so. I don't think so. We made this trade now, and then they, probably want to see what they get for Bielitsa. If we come to them and say, oh, this is what we'll offer you for Bielitsa, this is what you could get for Bielitsa, and it's better than what else they got offered, then they might do that. Like, have a history of trading with Sacramento. We traded 2 second-round picks for their pick to draft Gary Trent Jr. We traded Swanigan for Labissiere. Then we just made this Bazemore trade. So we have a history of trading with them more than any other franchise. So I feel like they might wait and see what's out there. But I feel like we might have said, okay, while we made this trade, we might have said, okay, at the deadline, we might be interested in these players. Like, let's revisit that or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I think that would happen would be like a Whiteside for a Deadman and Bielitsa and maybe someone else. But I don't know. Since they just traded a 3-for-2 trade, it'll be hard to make another trade for them. And I also don't know if they're going to be willing to take on a salary for next year, like we had them doing in that trade as well.
I mean, but that was just an example. So basically the trade we're talking about that we've just talked about that you guys probably don't know. You guys are worried about Jack James. I just put him in timeout for 5 minutes. We'll see if he comes back and starts behaving. If not, I'll just block him because I saw him being annoying in chat. But the trade I'm talking about, guys, this is just an example of the type of thing the Blazers could do. They could, substitute in different players, different teams, whatever, but it's just goes to show I feel like this is kind of realistic. Eric loves crapping on any trade idea I ever come up with, but I'm just kidding. But the trade idea is basically we'd trade Whiteside, Ariza, and Swanigan to Chicago. They'd trade Porter to us, Otto Porter Jr., and they trade Felicio to Sacramento, and then Sacramento would trade Bielitsa to us. We'd give Sacramento a first-round pick and a second-round pick. So basically, the Chicago would dump Otto Porter Jr. and Chris Felicio for expirings, which I think makes sense. We've talked about they might be willing to swap Otto Porter for Whiteside just to, get off of Otto Porter Jr.'s $27 million in next year. If they're also able to swap Felicio, who's making $8 million a year, to be worthless on their bench, then I feel like Chicago would do that trade. I'm surprised you don't think that's realistic at all. I feel like we've talked about that type of trade.
Yeah, but I just don't see them flipping Ariza that quickly unless it's
I'm not even necessarily talking about the logic for us. I'm saying the option that we'd have, the option that Olshey would have. I think if we had that deal available, we'd do it because Basically, the other part of that trade would be Felicio going to Sacramento and them giving us Bielitsa, and they'd get a first-round pick and a second-round pack for Bielitsa. Basically, they'd have to take on Felicio's contract, which kind of makes that iffy. But we'd get Porter and Bielitsa, 240-plus percentage three-point shooters to start at small forward and power forward, and we'd also save like over $7 million. We'd duck the luxury tax. So obviously, that's just an example. Obviously, I mean, a very, very, very low chance that I just randomly predicted that and it's actually going to happen, but that's just like the example. Like, we could bring in players and try and structure a trade. We'd probably have to give up, more picks, but we could structure a trade where we could bring in somebody that would help us in the future. Bielitsa and Porter would be huge for the future. But then we can also save some money. We'd have to be a little bit creative, but I feel like that is something that's possible. I also think it's possible they trade Ariza. I feel like it's fluid. This roster is completely fluid right now. This roster construction is fluid. We're not tied to Ariza. You know what I mean? I don't understand why. Okay, yeah, we brought him in, but if we made that trade for money reasons, then maybe we're fine with Ariza can replace Bazemore in the starting lineup, and we can. Sell that to Dame as, okay, we're not getting worse. We're getting a little bit better by making this trade, but we're saving Jody $12 million. I feel like if that's the logic of it, then we would possibly be, willing to trade Ariza. If we could maybe get something better than Ariza and still save money, then why wouldn't we do that? We just did that with Bazemore. Why wouldn't we do it with Ariza when we'd probably just cut him next offseason?
Yeah, I think it's hard to know because I'm not convinced that the plan is to cut him next season. I think that's just instead of having cap space, you just basically say you signed Ariza for $12 million.
Well, I mean, why? If you could have somebody better than Ariza, why not just trade him though? I don't understand that.
No, I understand. Like everyone's mentioning the trade I mentioned right away was that we could still trade Ariza and a first for Covington, and that would make sense because Covington's a younger player. He's definitely fits more with the roster in long term, and he's locked up on that nice contract for 2 more seasons. But unless something like that becomes available, or the team just tanks and it's obvious we're not going to make the playoffs by the All-Star break, that's why these next 9 games are crucial. But like, if we're doing decently in these next 9 games, I just have this feeling that we're going to be like, oh, you know what? Ariza's fitting in well here. He might be a part of our team next year as like a wing off the bench.
I mean, maybe. But if we play good over the next 9 games, then we'd have a chance possibly getting that 7th seed. Because these next 9 games are really hard. If we're like playing that well, which I highly doubt, but if we're playing that well, then we get healthy and have a really soft schedule around the All-Star break on through March, then maybe you could actually like make some noise this season. You know what I mean? So I feel like if we struggle, they'd be open to trading Ariza, and if we play really well, then maybe they wouldn't want to trade him. I still think they'd be pretty open to it though.
Hamza, we just answered that a little bit ago. We're assuming that the players will all get their physicals by Thursday. But yeah, I think the easier way would just be to trade Whiteside for tax savings versus Ariza. Obviously, if it was only like $3 or $4 million that you saved in a Whiteside deal, you might have to do like an Ariza for that Chris Felicio guy that you mentioned already. And that might get you under the tax if that's the goal. I just don't know what the goal is. And I'm also worried about the opposite way, whereas we just save some money in this trade, so that makes them more likely to bring in a Kevin Love or someone like that, because that
I saw some Blazer fans. Yeah, a big salary, 4-year salary guy. They might be more willing to do that. I hope not. I think that's the worst case scenario. I'd rather just let Whiteside expire instead of locking ourselves into a roster that's not good enough to contend. Which is why I disagreed with a lot of Blazer fans saying, I thought we might trade for Harrison Barnes. Why the hell do Blazer fans want Harrison Barnes? How much a season is he making right now? I think it's like
$20 million, yeah.
Yeah, why would you want to pay Harrison Barnes $20 million, 22 million, whatever he's making right now, to go out there, play mediocre defense, rebound mediocre. Like, he's not that good of a rebounder, and he averages 15 a game. You know what I mean? Like, if he was a lockdown defender, okay, maybe, but like, he locks you in, like, he would lock us into that roster for the next 3-4 years, and he's a role player. You know what I mean? Like, the only way I'm locking myself into a 3-year, 4-year contract at this point is if we get somebody good enough to possibly catapult our roster to contention next year or next couple of years. That's why I don't want Kevin Love, because I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's a good enough fit. I don't think he's a good enough player to do that for us. I don't think there's anybody like that available. So
I completely agree. I'm just worried, like, oh, we saved this $12 million here, but that gives us a little room to bring in this contract this year without it being quite as bad as it would have a few days ago, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
but yeah, I agree with the people with Dame Dollar saying Harrison Barnes is Rodney Hood, but not as efficient. Yeah, we have Rodney Hood possibly under contract next year for $6 million if he recovers, depending on how that goes. But honestly, I'd rather have Melo for the minimum than Harrison Barnes at $20 million. Like this season.
I know. Yeah, I 100% agree, because Melo kind of gives you what Harrison Barnes gives you. Harrison Barnes is a little bit better, but I saw Blazer fans like, oh, I wish we got Harrison Barnes. It's like, why do people like this guy? Why do people want this guy? I don't really understand that, man. I'm glad we didn't end up getting Harrison Barnes. I just think this team is pretty much open to any move that comes its way, and I think the mindset will be they'll try to save more money while also improving the roster. Because if you look at this Ariza trade, you can twist it into a way that you can look at it as, okay, we got a little bit better. Ariza's better than Bazemore. We got a decent prospect, I think, in Gabriel. And we saved money. We had to give up 2 second-round picks to do so. Maybe that's an overpay to some people, maybe not. But I feel like, that trade, even though there's some problems there, it accomplished 3 things. It increased our future flexibility a little bit than compared to if we kept Bazemore. It got us a little bit better, and it saved us some money. The problem is, well, what if we could have gotten something better for Bazemore at the deadline? Why did we make this trade so soon? That's a valid concern, a valid possible flaw with that trade. And then, Ariza, while we, could trade his contract next year, we'd have to, lock him into $13 million a year, which is a bit of an overpay. We also got a $7 million trade player exception, but that's not probably going to be that meaningful, and Olshey wasted a $13 million traded player exception in the past anyway. So there's definitely flaws with that, but I feel like I just don't understand, Chad doing, people in media saying, oh, this just shows they're only going to try and save money, because I do think that Olshey tried to improve the team a little bit, create a little bit of future flexibility compared to just keeping Bazemore, while also saving Jody Allen money. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I feel like they're trying to accomplish multiple things more than just save money.
I just look at it like, if we're going to include 2 picks with Bazemore, if that was the best we could do, that's kind of disappointing. Hopefully I'm wrong on that. And it is kind of funny because outside of a few college basketball fanatics, not many people even knew who Wenyen Gabriel was, and now all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh my God, we might have just ripped them off with this guy. He looks amazing."
That's always the case. And I'll say this: I knew who he was in Kentucky. I knew who he was in high school. He blew up in high school. I follow that closely enough. So I always thought he kind of had an intriguing skill set, but just didn't seem to put it together. He was a highly rated prospect, but he's been showing some flashes in the G League. I don't think it's completely unjustified to get a little bit excited about him. I think some Blazer fans are, just searching for optimism and, oh, well, maybe this guy could be awesome for us. We have such bad forwards right now. Maybe this guy could be an upgrade.
I was going to say, that's how bad this year's been. We're like, oh my God, this guy could be better than what we have now. That's really sad. But
I will say this, though. He might be better than what we could have gotten for one of those second round picks in 2024, 2025, if you think about it. If he ends up, the most optimistic outlook of him, if he ends up achieving that, and I think he could possibly grow into being a role player. That's probably all you'd get for a second round pick. So it does make trading those 2 second round picks a little bit better. I do think he is intriguing. I feel like he just kind of like he looks like a G League Siakam a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, just like the length and the body type and the, you know, the shot, and can kind of shoot off the dribble a little bit and can kind of handle the ball a little bit for being 6'9". Like, I feel like he just kind of gives people Siakam vibes, which is why they're so excited for him. Obviously, I'm not saying he's going to end up like Pascal Siakam. I think people need to like hold that in check a little bit, but I am intrigued to see what he can bring. I hope he plays Thursday. I hope we see him. I hope we can have a post-game show on Thursday where we're talking about what Wenyen Gabriel did and what Trevor Ariza did for us. That's a tough game against the Mavericks, who just
don't forget Caleb Swan again.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, that's the
apparently
thing.
He lost 40 pounds. Last time I saw him, he looked.
No, there's no way. He must have lost 40 pounds in the last month. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. Even if he was in great shape, I still don't think he'd be good. You know what I mean? It's just like he's so out of shape that he's really bad. Like,
let me answer something for Ash real quick. He asked a little bit ago. So he was asking about Ariza being combined.
Yeah, I was going to answer that.
So Ariza can be traded by himself. No problems. The only way he can be combined in a trade for other players is if the trade would work individually without him. So just as an example, I'm using Chris Paul because I know he has a huge salary that we can't match otherwise.
He has like $40 million, making $40 million this year.
So if we were trading for Chris Paul, we couldn't combine Whiteside and Ariza to get to Chris Paul's number to trade for him. That wouldn't be possible now. But if you were talking about like Robert Covington and Christian Felicio, like you were mentioning earlier, we can word it as two trades versus one big trade.
Yeah,
and technically it works straight across, but yeah.
Yeah, I have a better example for that. Like, yeah, so like you said, $40 million, if we're trying to bring that in, we'd have to send out like $34 million, so we couldn't combine Whiteside's $27 million and Ariza's $12 million to reach that $34 million mark. We basically can't combine Ariza's salary with other players' salary. However, if we were bringing in two players that added up to $40 million, but like it was like Otto Porter Jr.'s $27 million and another player making $12 million, then we could do that trade since Whiteside matches Otto Porter Jr.'s $27 million on its own, and then Ariza's contract would match the other $12 million on his own, so it could be, you know, separated. Basically, we wouldn't need to combine those two guys' salaries to reach a number to bring in something. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I explained that well.
Yeah, and then the only other way kind of around that is if you, unfortunately, there's no one with a trade exception big enough to take on Ariza's, but there are teams who have a trade exception big enough to take on like Swanigan. So if you needed his $2 million to like save money in a trade, we could like pay a team a second round pick just to take him, like we did with Vonleh that one year, which turned out to be a mistake. But I don't think it would be the same mistake with Swanigan.
I feel like part of the reason is we're trying to avoid the repeater tax, which if you're in the luxury tax, 3 out of 4 years over a stretch, then it kicks in a repeater tax, where if you're over it after that, then it's like much heavier penalties via the tax. So I think we're trying to avoid that. That's why we might try and duck the tax this year, because this might be like our last opportunity to completely duck the tax. You know what I mean? If we're really going to try and upgrade the roster a ton next year. So I feel like that might be why we're trying to duck it. It makes sense, like, especially for an owner like Jody, the repeater tax, it's not something to mess around with. Like, you don't want to be paying $4 for every dollar you're over the, you know, tax or whatever it is. Like it gets, like, the penalties get rough. I don't know them off the top of my head, but so I feel like we might be trying to duck that. I feel like it's likely we do end up trading Swanigan at some point, because that's $2 million we don't really want on our cap. We don't really need him, and now we could trade him, and because he like took up the extra roster spot. Now we can...
if we were able to dump him like Vonleh, just for like the rights to some foreign dude that never plays or something, then
that would save us another like $5 million for Jody.
Right, and it would mean that in a Whiteside trade you could have, instead of 19.7 million coming back to deduct the tax, we're talking like 21.7 million back. So that opens up a few more doors for players you can bring in a Whiteside trade and still get under the tax. But yeah, it'd be kind of, in that situation, if it was strictly to avoid the tax this year, then you might have to trade Ariza for someone making less, and then trade Whiteside for like a Batum where you save like 2 million, get rid of Swanigan for 2 million, and then trade Ariza for someone making like 8 million. So that gets you to the number. I don't know if that's going to be possible to do all that. You could probably get a second round pick for taking on salaries that you could use in other trades and stuff. So like the Batum trade, you would get at least the Cleveland second rounder for next year. But then you have to kind of worry about like roster spots then, because then you have to, just because we got under the tax, we still have to have 14 guys on the roster. So we'd have to make sure we still had enough money under the tax to sign someone to that 14th roster spot if we did that.
I mean, like,
so there's a lot of factors there, but
I'm just trying to explain our situation in as simple of a way as possible, because it's kind of something you'd need graphics to really go in depth to really explain it well. So it's just a very, like, it's a complicated thing, lots of math, lots of factors come into play. I just think their overall mindset will be to pursue saving money as well as like trying to help our roster in the next year and a half.
I don't like this trade at all, but there's a trade I talk about in this next episode of Eric's Trade Talk where we create almost a $15 million trade exception and get way under the tax at basically no cost.
Yeah. That's probably a better time to like,
yeah,
for you to, you can edit that and, explain those deals a little better, and you can have the graphic and you can be creative with that type of stuff. Yeah. So, make sure you guys check out that video when it drops. I don't know when it's going to drop, but it'll drop sometime in the future. I also have a Blazers Pulse dropping tonight. It was filmed like 4 or 5 days ago, but most of it's still relevant. I think we'll make 2 trades basically. I think we'll end up trading Bazemore. Well, we traded Bazemore, but like it's still relevant. So that'll be dropping tonight. I'm making the thumbnail for that. I didn't want to drop it during that game, so.
It's funny.
What's up?
So 2 comments ago, Randall Pink Floyd, if we trade for Batum, I'm staging a riot in front of EB's store. And then his next comment is, call Vulcan immediately, EB, you're hired. Like, okay. I don't want to trade for Batum. I don't hate Batum. That's too strong.
That'd be a $25 million expiring contract next year, and he's better than Hazonia.
Yes, I'm saying, like, worst case scenario, they have basically what's going to be like the 31st or 32nd pick in the draft. That wouldn't be a bad asset to have, especially then you could use that in another trade to dump. You could maybe even include that with Swanigan to get something back that's decent, someone on a rookie contract or something, or a minimum contract. But yeah, I don't want Batum. Like he's been horrible the last couple of years. His contract sucks. I was just talking about like if they were trying to duck the tax, like that would be one way of doing it. But that's like a worst last option.
Yeah, it sucks that has to be a factor, man. It sucks that has to be a factor. We'll see. It's kind of making my head hurt. Just
And for those in the chat that are talking about this, so Tori is holding out hope that we'll make moves that can both be financially beneficial and also help the team, similar to the Ariza trade. I'm hopeful for that too, but the fact that we made a trade to save money and we haven't been willing to fill that roster spot for several months now, it just makes me feel like maybe they don't want to pay any extra money this year. And like I said, I hope I'm wrong on that. I don't know what to think anymore because it seems like they've only been concerned about saving money ever since Hood went down.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this more later. I don't want to talk about this for too long. We've been talking about this for a while, so Yeah, just lots of factors, and we'll keep you guys covered as always. But yeah, so there's a lot of games today. I also want to apologize for not having a podcast earlier. We streamed twice Friday. We streamed on Saturday. Then we're streaming tonight. That's 4 streams in 3 days already. Would have been 5 if we did the podcast.
You streamed twice on Saturday because you had the trade stream too.
Oh yeah, so it would have been, if I did the podcast, it would have been 6 streams in that's 4 days.
4 days, yeah.
And the only day off, I was watching the Niners get to the Super Bowl, so I was
yeah.
Yeah, I was wound up. But it was basically would have been 3 out of 4 days were streamed for like 4 hours in a day. You know what I mean? Like that gets to be a lot. It gets to be a lot, and it was also like not much new to talk about. You know what I mean? We already talked about the trade. I already had the trade stream. We talked about the trade some more with me and Eric, and we also had Eric Kleiser on, who is a Patreon donor. That was actually a lot of fun. I thought he was really well spoken. Really good vibe in there. It is a little harder for me to respond to chat and conduct a conversation with 3 people instead of 2. But overall, it was a really good post game show. So if you guys want to watch that back, go ahead. He impressed me a little bit. He was well spoken. It was a good post game stream, I think. But it was just like 6 times in 4 days is a lot. We didn't have much new to talk about, and then picks against the spread was kind of messed up since a lot of the games today were played very, very early because it was MLK Day. So a lot of the games were already going on, and it was just kind of like, you know what, we'll just wait. I'll finish editing this Pulse video, start uploading it. Mailbag is coming tomorrow, hopefully, and yeah.
Chat, for the record, I did finally get chat to work on our last podcast, so I was able to get your guys' picks in there.
How did we do on Friday?
There was one game that the chat was 5-5 voting on, and I was nice and gave you guys the W. So, Karash, if you're listening, there you go. That makes up for that other one you tried to challenge.
Yeah. So what was the records for us?
I'm loading it real quick.
I am curious. Shout out to the fact that we still got 100 people in here at 11 at night. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Like I said, Pulse video coming tonight, and then a mailbag coming tomorrow. Hopefully, I will have Rec League tomorrow, but I'll keep you guys updated on how that goes. I need to live stream one of my Rec League games. That'd be entertaining.
So we were both 3-5, and chat, thanks to that gift, was 5-3.
Oh wow, they finally gained some ground because they were way behind. Yeah, I struggled. I've been struggling. I've been in a slump lately with those picks. Shout out to First P Last JL for the $3 super sticker, the fist bump super sticker. There you go, man. I appreciate it. I see people buying a lot more super stickers now. Oh yeah, see, I can donate to myself, which means I'd lose money basically because YouTube would take some of it. Why would they let me donate to myself? Jeez, there's a $50 super sticker. That's kind of crazy, but
Randall, I would never rob you guys. Especially since anyone can go back and fact check me, so I'm not gonna try to screw you guys over.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, it's not that serious. It's not that competitive. I do want to put bets on the line between me and you, on random days. So if you guys have any bet ideas for me and Eric, whoever does worse, I don't know. I don't want it to do a money. I don't want it to be a money bet. Dame Dalla, I don't have a card connected to this account. So I donate to myself. That'd be like donating to YouTube.
Lil Bakel did win his double down. Good job, man. You had the Miami Heat and they won.
Yeah. But today, let's go through some NBA scores.
Busy day.
Starting with the Wizards. Yeah, we had 14 games today. So the Wizards beat the Pistons 106-100. Wizards were led by Bradley Beal's 29. Jan Mahinmi hit a 3-pointer and was 9 for 10 from the field and had 21 points for the Wizards. Wow. Started over Thomas
Game
Bryant.
of his life.
Yeah, Thomas Bryant's back, I guess. Yeah, interesting there. Derrick Rose had 21. There was rumors today about possibly the Philadelphia 76ers and the Los Angeles Lakers being interested in him. He'd be a perfect pickup for the Lakers, I think, because he's shooting better now, and their options at point guard aren't good. They got Rondo, who has regressed back to the bad player that he's been the past couple of years. That would be a huge upgrade for them. I don't know how they'd get him. You know, they don't really have a ton of assets. Philadelphia would also be a great fit for them. They need kind of like a legit like point guard to either bring off the bench or play next to Simmons. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting watching the Pistons because they got two of the top trade targets that'll probably get traded at the deadline, Drummond and Rose. And I wouldn't necessarily rule out Blake Griffin not getting traded somewhere. Somewhere might try and take a chance on him returning to health. I don't think it'll be us, though, since we'd have to take on too much money to make that happen. Or maybe we do like Whiteside, Hazonia, and for Griffin and throw in Ariza or something crazy, and that'd get us below the tax line, and then we just hope that Griffin could return, and then we tank the rest of the season. That I don't think I'd do that, but that would be interesting, I guess.
They're right up against the tax line, so it's really hard to make trades with them. That's
true. That's
so they would want to go in the tax for that. Yeah. But
that just randomly came into my head.
I've heard rumors that they're most likely looking at either just keeping Griffin or having to include a first-round pick. If we got Griffin at a first, that becomes more intriguing than...
Oh, I'd do Whiteside for Griffin in a first. I'd 100% do it. If they wanted to... Because you're talking about a first-round pick that's in the lottery? Like, I assume they'd protect it maybe, but probably. I mean, I'd do Whiteside for Griffin in a first at that point. Because then at that point, okay, maybe you just hope Griffin can return to health. You know, his knees are messed up. He could be just like a contract that makes it so we never contend to the Dame era. But also, at the same time, if he does get healthy and like kind of returns to the player he was last year, he would help us contend. And then we get a first-round pick out of it. So it'd be like a high-risk, high reward. I feel like that first round pick would mitigate the risk enough to probably do that. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed because that was always one of my favorite trade ideas was like Rose and Snell too for Bazemore, and that's really hard to do now.
Yep. This season just thrown us a lot of curveballs, a lot of.
Yeah, the Pistons could really retool fast because they got
Dubois playing well. They got Kennard. Yeah.
They got Markieff Morris they could trade. That's like an easily tradable contract for a second-round pick or something.
I feel like they could get some value for Christian Wood, honestly, because he's on a minimum contract, but he's been really, really solid. He's just not playing much. They could elect to keep him and have him as part of the rebuild because he's young enough, but he could also bring back some value if they wanted to trade him too.
And then, like Langston Galloway is a $7 million expiring. They can trade too. So yeah, they have some options there.
They're going to be the team to watch. For sure. Raptors beat the Hawks 122-117, bit closer than expected. Norman Powell had 27 off the bench. Van Vliet had 20. Siakam, Wenyen Siakam had 18 and 6. Trae Young had 42 points, 15 assists, 6 rebounds. I still think Dame's 61, 10 and 7 is better than that, though.
Did you see that play where he threw it between Van Vliet's legs?
He's getting saucy with those, man.
It's too bad he missed the shot.
He's getting saucy with those. Ben Simmons led the Sixers to a 117-111 win. Simmons had a 34-point game on only 14 shots. He was 10 for 14 from the free throw line, 12 for 14 from the field. That's super impressive. It was also in a triple-double. He had 34, 12, and 10. I'll see you later, Randall Peak Floyd. Good luck on your MRI. That doesn't sound too good, but I'll catch you later. Embiid still isn't back, but solid win for the Sixers.
People's Mix, are you still in here? He's like dead set that the 76ers need to trade Embiid. It's kind of weird.
It's super weird. They would trade Simmons before that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, for the Nets, they were led by 22 from Spencer Dinwiddie. Kyrie Irving didn't play. Did he get hurt again? What's up with Kyrie Irving? He's out again? I thought he just came back.
Yeah. You know my thoughts on Irving.
Yep. Heat beat the Kings 118-113 in overtime in Miami, so the Kings put together a good game but couldn't pull it out. Kendrick Nunn, 25-7 and 6 for the Heat. They were without Jimmy Butler but still won this game. James Johnson had 22 off the bench. Myers Leonard had 7 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Heat fans have figured out exactly what we had figured out about Myers Leonard. Have you seen Heat fans? Heat fans have been crucifying him on Twitter like we did for all the same things that we did.
What's
And
funny is they didn't start out that way.
I know. They loved him, and now they're like frustrated about all the same things we would get frustrated with Myers about. And it's funny to see. It's funny to see. I got in an argument with somebody on Twitter about how the Heat trading Whiteside for Myers Leonard basically wasn't about Whiteside being worse than Myers Leonard. They were doing it so they could bring in Jimmy Butler. I'm sure you saw that conversation. That was a ridiculous conversation. But yeah, Whiteside's been better than they advertised, and now they're figuring out what we said about Myers Leonard. So I wonder how they feel about that trade now. You had Bielitsa with 22 for the Kings, shot 8 for 13 from the field. Buddy Hield had 20. The Kings are 15 and 28. That team's really struggled, really disappointed. They've been hurt, but they should be better than what they're doing right now. Bucks beat the Bulls 111-98. You can butt in whenever you want to say comment about anything. I thought you started to talk, but then I heard that little sigh.
I'm just seeing a lot of questions in chat. Dame Dollars asked him what's worse, jamming your finger or rolling your ankle. I actually prefer to roll my ankle because it usually just is fine after a day or something. Mm-hmm. Fingers can linger for a long time, and I mean, I've jammed like every one of my fingers by now, but really bad jam fingers can affect your shot for a long time, whereas ankles go away fast for me. I don't know. I feel like my ankles are just rubber by now.
Yeah. So somebody's saying Batum still has good percentages. Batum has played 20 games this year, 22 minutes per game, and he's shooting 36.6 from the field, 28.9 from the three-point line. And he's averaging 3.6 points per game and 23 minutes per game. What do you mean he has good? What do you mean he has good percentages? He never shoots, and when he does, he never makes shots. He's literally making barely over one shot per game, and he's playing 23 minutes. If we trade for Batum, it wouldn't be for him as a player. He's washed at this point.
And they were bad his last year here, too. He shot like 40% that season from the field, too.
He was better last season. He shot 45% from the field, 39% from three, and 52% from two. So he was better last season. But like the 4 years before that, he was really bad. He was inefficient. And Batum's just such a weird player, man. He's such a weird player to figure out. I mean, maybe he'd come in here and be okay. I don't know. He's just never really liked his motor, to be honest, though.
And don't let that little spurt he had against the Blazers at the end fool you, where he hit the three and played some good D. Like, he doesn't give that effort as much anymore.
Nope. And a lot of that is injuries. He's just become injured, and he's over 30 now, so he's already on the decline.
Good night, Bruce Davis.
Necron says Batum just doesn't play because they're tanking and developing youth. I just said he plays 23 minutes per game. He still plays a lot. Anyway, Eric, when I'm doing this segment, you can butt in and answer chat. You can respond to a game. You can respond to anything. I'm just kind of
for sure
rambling off the scores around the NBA. Giannis had a triple-double for the Bucks in a 111-98 win against the Chicago Bulls. Giannis shot 12 for 20 from the field, had 28 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists, and only 31 minutes. Chris Middleton, who I think is the most underrated player in the NBA. Somebody asked me this on a mailbag, and I didn't think of Chris Middleton. Thinking about Chris Middleton, he's the most underrated player in the entire NBA right now, man. He just doesn't get love because Giannis gets all the shine, I feel like. But, like, this dude is getting only 28 minutes per game. A lot of that is because they're in blowouts. And he's still getting 19.4 points per game, almost 6 rebounds, and almost 4 assists per game. So per 36 minutes, he's getting 24.6 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game, and 4.8 assists per game. He's also doing it on 54% from 2-point range, which is insane for a wing. That equates to 49% from the field. He's shooting 41.5% from 3, and he's shooting 89% from the free throw line. So almost a 50-40-90 guy with those stats. And he also plays really, really good defense.
Yeah, I guess the only reason you could knock him a little bit is he doesn't really have to do anything, but that's not really his fault. Like,
I think they'd
take advantage of.
Yeah, I do get.
But there's no way they're going to trade him. But But yeah, like if he was like the number one option on a team, obviously I don't think he would put up those that efficiency. But yeah, he just like he's the perfect complement to Giannis right now.
I think he's been just as good as Jimmy Butler has been this season, or a guy like that. I think that's like Paul. I feel he's kind of been Paul George-esque in a way. Maybe not as good as like Paul George, but like I don't know. Looking at Paul George's stats this year, I think he's having just as good of a season as Paul George. Better efficiency, not quite scored at the same clip, but close to it. I mean, I don't know, man. Like Chris Middleton's super underrated. He's been one of the best 15 players in the league this season. He's been phenomenal, and he just doesn't get talked about. And the thing is, Milwaukee got him for free basically a while ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that trade was? How did they get Chris Middleton? It's from Detroit. Detroit screwed up.
Was that with the Tobias Harris? That might have been before that, actually.
It might have been Tobias Harris, honestly. Let me search it up. Chris Middleton Pistons trade. Here, I'm finding it right now because I'm curious. God, that's not it. I hate when some articles, like some text, is like bigger and in bold.
They got him after his rookie season.
Oh, I found it. The Detroit Pistons acquire Brandon Jennings from Milwaukee for Brandon Knight, Chris Middleton, and Slava Kraftzov. Whatever that name is. So they traded Chris Middleton for Brandon Jennings. Coleslaw. What a horrible trade for Detroit. What a huge mistake for them. But that just goes to show Chris Middleton was a second-round pick, kind of a throw-in. One of my biggest complaints about Neil Olshey is he hasn't been good at adding players around the edges. Too often he settles for like retreads, like first-round pick busts that don't pan out. Noah Vonleh, Nick Stauskas, Mario Hezonja. He'll focus too heavily on those types of players. And in the past, man, there's been players like the Jazz got Joe Ingles for free as an undrafted free agent. You even look at like a Maxi Kleber for the Mavericks, who they signed as an undrafted free agent, and he's been really, really good. Like, would be a phenomenal role player for us, and he was just an overseas guy that never got drafted. You look at Daniel Tice for the Celtics, another overseas guy that never got drafted and then wanted to come to the league. When was the last? Has Olshey ever signed an undrafted European free agent to come over and play for us? We're seeing it more and more. We're like, Joe Ingles, you could throw into that. He was from Australia, and he came over at like age 27, 26 or something, and ended up he would be the perfect small forward for us. Can make plays, can defend, can hit threes at a very high clip.
Yeah, well, either that or you need to find like the next Chris Middleton, like a guy or Brogdon who fell to the second round. Like you got to find one of those guys at some point, and that's what those kind of things can propel a team from a good team to a contending team. Like Golden State picking up a Draymond Green in the second round and him turning into this massive defensive stopper. So like, yeah, if you can find one of those guys, and it is rare, but it is possible to do that.
I mean, but a lot of that's the thing. I look at like almost every team in the league, and I feel like they have a guy like that. Whereas I wouldn't say the same about us. I mean, you look at the Miami Heat with Kendrick Nunn this year, with Duncan Robinson, even with Derrick Jones Jr., who would be very helpful for us right now. You know what I mean? It's just like we got guys that are playing like a Hezonja and a Tolliver, and he signs guys like that. Like in the past, Stauskas, Vonleh. He signs guys like that instead of like focusing on possibly finding a diamond in the rough. Meanwhile, other teams get those types of guys here and there.
Or like Oubre last year got traded for basically nothing, and he was like a throw into a trade, and like his value wasn't very high.
I mean, I don't know if Joe Ingles got signed over from overseas the year Evan Turner was a free agent, but look at that. Joe Ingles signs a minimum contract, comes from overseas either that year, it might have been the year before. I actually think it was the year before. Maybe a couple years before that. I don't know exactly, but like Joe Ingles, minimum contract, overseas free agent. Meanwhile, we're handing out $18 million a year to Evan Turner. You know what I mean? Like, and then I don't know. It's just like Olshey does not do a good job at all of working around the edges of the roster, possibly finding diamonds in the rough or unheralded guys that could end up being like good players. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't had one good second round draft pick outside of Will Barton. He ended up trading him for 2 months of Aaron Aflalo. So that's my biggest complaint with Neil Olshey is...
Well, he trades most of his second round.
Yeah, he does. But that's the thing is we just don't... Why are we signing guys like freaking Mauro Hezonja? Why not go out and sign a Christian Wood? Why not? Like, he obviously had talent and he was on a minimum contract. He could have been had for the minimum. We could probably, if we said, okay, we'll bring you in here and you can have a role. We needed a power forward, right? He could shoot the ball. He can play power forward. He can play either big man spot. You know what I mean? Like, what? Yeah.
I want to say Christian Wood had some sort of legal problem, and that probably was the reason. I might not be correct on that.
I don't remember anything like that, but even if he did, that's just like an example of one of the players. You know what I mean? Instead of focusing on trying to get somebody like that, it's like...
I looked up Ingles. He signed in 2015. And he signed for 2 years, $4.3 million out of Australia. So 2.15 a year for the first 2 years.
Yeah, I mean that dude would be franchise changing for us. You know what I mean? Like that's a perfect small forward for us.
15 was the year we lost Aldridge, so like we had cap room that summer too, and we went into the season with massive cap room. That's how we got the Bergeau trade that ended up being the pick that Swanigan turned into.
Who is the guys on the edge of our roster that year? I'm gonna look it up right now because I kind of forget. Honestly, I can't. We had like
we traded for Harkless, signed Davis and Aminu,
Cliff Alexander. I mean, maybe that Luis Montero. You know what I mean? Like he's missed just on like guys around the edges of the roster. Like sure, maybe those guys. You know, maybe he was hoping those guys could be some of the examples that we're talking about, but
yeah, it's tough because
Tim Frazier.
For every guy we mentioned that pans out, there's like 10 that don't. So like, it's really hard to find those guys. But yeah,
it just seems like good GMs are able to kind of identify those guys, and Olshey has never been able to identify like one guy like that ever. Like. With a second round pick, if he identified Will Barton like that, he wouldn't have just thrown him in to trade for 2 months of Aaron Aflalo. I get why they kind of made the trade at the time, but obviously he didn't value Will Barton that much. If he was trading a first round pick and Will Barton for Aaron Aflalo, knowing that he could be a rental, so obviously he didn't value it that much. It's like he's never like he's been here since 2012. He's never landed a guy like that. I don't even think he ever landed a guy like that with the Los Angeles Clippers. You know what I mean? He made some big moves. You know, he got the first overall pick, got Blake Griffin, and then he traded for Chris Paul. He did get DeAndre Jordan. That's pretty much the only one you can say.
That's second round, yeah.
But like for us, dude, he's been here. It's 2020. He's been here since 2012. We haven't been able to get one of those guys. Like... Maybe it's a problem with our coaching staff is overrated at developing players, but it's like he's never been able to get one of those around the edges guy, especially a guy who's like older, maybe overseas, brought here. Like,
well, all but one of the seasons we've been picking in the non-lottery, right? So, and the one time we didn't, we got CJ. But it kind of like when you're picking it towards the end of the first round, you kind of have to. I think they've kind of taken chances on guys like Simons and Little.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I'm not complaining about that. It's just like there always seems
but those
to be...
take the roster spot of going after other guys. Like we didn't really have a lot of spots open for those type of guys.
And it's not even really the draft. It's just in free agency. Like, and we're focusing on the Stauskises, like Bus, you know, guys that have been in the league for 4 years, got an opportunity and shown to be awful. It's like he doesn't watch the rest of the NBA. Like, I don't understand that, you know, or it's a favor to an agent in signing one of their guys for a minimum when no other team wants them. You know what I mean? Because like there's kind of a trend with that. That was kind of said to be the case with Nick Stauskas. I mean,
I will say that at least the last 2 years he's cut bait on the guys that haven't been working out. So like last year he traded Stauskas and Baldwin. This year he's already traded Tolliver. Hopefully Hazonia is on his way out sometime soon too.
It's just that's not even a credit to him though, because he should be able to identify a guy here
Right.
and there that's unheralded and have them come in and be something.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the hope would be that a guy like Hazonia has the talent somewhere in there to do that. But yeah, unfortunately, it hasn't worked out at all. So
Yeah.
you can't really give him credit for that.
I mean, I'll shout these guys as I read the rest of these box scores because that's how I got started on this.
Jokic is a second-round pick too.
Jokic is a second-round pick. Yep. Thunder came back from 21 down to beat the Rockets. The Rockets have really struggled.
Awesome.
The Rocket Daniel House Jr. would be huge for us right now. He's on the Rockets. He was an undrafted free agent. He played like half a season for the Warriors, and then the Rockets signed him, and now he's a guy shooting like 40% from three and plays okay defense. That would be huge for us, but we don't sign those guys.
I think Layman was around his level.
Yeah,
but we
he's
got
a
rid
little
of
better
Layman.
than Layman is. Yeah, but we get rid of Layman to sign Mario freaking Hazonia. You know what I mean? Like, meanwhile, we're giving extra roster spots to like Tim Quarterman, like Brad Scalabrine said. You know what I mean? A guy who like we all knew never had a chance because he literally sucked at literally everything. Like, God, man, it drives me crazy. But the Thunder beat the Rockets 112-107. The Rockets are struggling right now. They're now 26-16. They're only 10 games above 500. The Rockets are only 2 games behind the Houston Rockets for the 6th seed. So
all of a sudden, that win's not looking that great.
Yeah. I mean, Harden's been in a slump. We did honestly though, just watching us play, we did play
we
the
played
best
well
game,
that game.
the best
Yeah.
game of the season. I think Harden has been struggling, but we defend him really, really well. But Harden tonight, 29 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. You'd think that is good, but then you look at his 3-point shooting. He was 1 for 17. He was 9 for 29 from the field. He also had 5 turnovers to go with his 6 assists. That's as bad of a 29-point game as you'll find. Mike D'Antoni is very Stotts-like to me, to be honest. Let me just say that. I tweeted that out earlier, but
and Dame Dollar also mentions Pat Connaughton, who we let leave too, and he's helping them the Bucks out this year, the best team the best record in the NBA.
Even a guy like Abdul Nader has been serviceable for the Thunder this year. Let me look up his stats because I went through some stats last night. He's averaging 16 minutes per game, played 32 games this season. He's like a 6'5", 6'6" small forward type. He's averaging 6 points per game, shooting 47% from the field, 36% from three. You know what I mean? Like, he's a lot better than Hazonia is. A lot better. I think he plays like Nader's a better defender, I think, too. He plays okay-ish defense. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. We focus on the guys that Olshey liked 5 years ago, that if Olshey had the privilege to draft, they would have been bust because Olshey overrated them. You know what I mean? It's just frustrating as hell. Like, every one of these teams has kind of a guy like that. Next game, I'm going to look for more of these guys. The Magic beat the Charlotte Hornets 106-83. We could have had Markelle Fultz for what? A late first-round pick? That would have been kind of cool. But I mean, I'm not going to complain about that one. The Magic don't really have any guys like that. They were led by Fournier with 26. Vucevic had 24.
The Fultz thing would have been more like what you just said not to do, was like go after bust first rounders.
True, but that wasn't because of his talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was because of his like injury. Or maybe you could figure out his injury. So that was more of like a lottery ticket, whereas like Stauskas and Hazonia had already proven they sucked by the time they got there. Like, Vonleh had opportunity and wasn't hurt in Charlotte and did not look good. And then we bring him in, like, wanted to get what we could for Batum, but still, like...
before the season, you weren't very high on Fultz either, so, like, it's kind of hard to blame him for that one.
I was pretty high on Fultz, I thought. I was saying, like, his shot, maybe... I didn't think I was down on him at all. I thought he had a chance to take some people by surprise. I thought maybe I didn't say that. I don't know. I don't remember everything I say, so that's why I'm like not saying. Oh, I said different.
I'll have to go back and check the footage.
Yeah, that's a lot of footage to go through. Good luck finding that.
Yeah.
The Pelicans beat the Memphis Grizzlies 126-116 in Memphis. The Pelicans are playing better. They get Zion back on Wednesday, so that'll be interesting to watch. They were led by 36 points and 6 rebounds from Drew Holiday. Brandon Ingram had 25 points. Grizzlies were led by 31 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. Not for John Morant, not from Jaren Jackson Jr., no, from Dylan Brooks, the Oregon Duck. Dylan Brooks had 31-9.
He's been playing great lately.
Yeah, he's been doing better, just facilitating and scoring efficiently. John Morant had
ever since you made fun of him that one day.
True. John Morant had 16 points, 9 assists. D'Anthony Melton is a guy who's played really well this year that people don't realize has played really well, and I think couldn't he have been had for like very, very little? Didn't they basically dump Josh Jackson by attaching D'Anthony Melton to him?
Yeah, I think who was the point guard they traded Phoenix?
Javon Carter.
Yeah, they traded him, and I think they traded him for Melton and maybe like a second round pick.
The thing is, I would have tried whatever it took to bring in Melton because I always thought he was like a perfect third guard for us, like if he could have achieved his potential. He's averaging 8 points per game for the Grizzlies. This is a guy who's been helping them win games that you guys probably don't know. D'Anthony Melton played at USC in his second year this year. 6'2" guard, but like insanely long wingspan, could defend well, can play either guard spot. He's averaging, in 17 minutes per game, he's averaging 8 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. Per 36, he's averaging 16 points per game, 6 assists, and 8 rebounds per game. That's phenomenal. He's shooting 51.5% from 2, 31% from 3. So that would have been a guy that would have been really nice to land. He would be much better than Simons is now, and he's still pretty young. That's the thing. If we had a guy like that, Blazer fans would be like, "Oh my God, he's so amazing." He literally has a defensive box plus minus of a +2, a positive 2.4 box plus minus. Like, that's a guy who's been terrific for them. And they basically picked him up for free this past offseason. So that's what I'm saying, man. A lot of these teams have players like this, and we struggle to find players like this.
I mean, we did get Harkless and Napier for free. Those guys helped.
I mean, Napier, the season he had with us wasn't anywhere near as good as Melton's having. Napier in that second season with us, which was probably his best shot, 42% from the field, 38% from 3, averaged 9 points per game, 2 assists. He wasn't as good of a playmaker as Melton. He wasn't as good of a defender as Melton, and he was less efficient than Melton has been this year. So
the Melton trade was Melton, Josh Jackson, 2020 second round pick, and a conditional 2021 second round pick for Korver and Javon Carter.
And then they cut Korver.
They cut Korver, yeah.
That's a phenomenal trade for Memphis, man. That's a phenomenal trade. Are you kidding me? So it's just interesting to kind of look at what teams like have underrated players like this. Moving on to next score, Knicks versus Cavs. They probably don't have any players like this, to be honest. They both suck. The Knicks beat the Cavs 106-86, though, led by 19 apiece from Julius Randle and Marcus Morris. Those are trade targets Blazer fans like, even though I'm not really high on either of them at the moment. Marcus Morris would probably take a first-round pick. I don't really want that, and then he's expiring. Julius Randle, I think, is overrated. His defense sucks. Celtics beat the Lakers 139-107. Absolutely crushed the Lakers. They were led by 27 from Jason Tatum, 20 apiece from Kemba and Jaylen Brown. They had 18 off the bench from Enes Kanter. Is it Enes or Ennis? I never really figured that out fully.
I think it's supposed to be Enes, but he pronounces it Ennis, so it doesn't sound like the other word.
He had 18 and 11. So Celtics, Brad Wanamaker, here's another one of these guys, undrafted free agent, had been playing overseas. He's like 28 years old. This is his second year in the league. And he is having a really solid season. I know we want to develop Simons, but like Osha has a track record of not being able to identify these types of players.
Who is that?
Brad Wanamaker. He's not like great, but he's a solid defender, getting per 36, 12 points per game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, true shooting percentage of 55%. And he's a solid defender, 6'3" guard.
WTF, man. He says, y'all hating on Celtics wings for Portland to trade. Are you talking about Tori and I or chat? Because I would love to have one of the Celtics wings on this
but
team.
none of them are available.
Yeah, they're not it's not realistic.
No. All right, next team, Nuggets. Look at Monte Morris with the 50th pick. That's a guy who they got who's panned out for them. They beat the Timberwolves, though, 107-100. They were led by Michael Porter Jr., who had 20, 14, and 4. I've watched a bit of him. I've watched as much as I can of him. People need to realize his defense is absolutely horrendous, so he better be putting up 50% shooting when he's dropping 20 points per game, because his defense is trash. And once he gets scouted, I feel like teams will start to figure him out a little bit more. We saw Anthony have a hot streak earlier this season where he looked awesome and was having games like this. I feel like this is Michael Porter Jr.'s hot streak. Still don't think he's going to be a future All-Star at any point in his career.
A lot of people only care about scoring, though.
I know. Jokic had 17, 13, and 5. Timberwolves were led by 28 from Karl Anthony Towns. I'm still waiting for Jake Layman to return. I want to see him play again. Alan Crabb, that might have been his debut or maybe a second game. He had 3 points off the bench in 17 minutes. Timberwolves fans thought they could turn Alan Crabb into the Alan Crabb that we turned him into. Yeah, no, that's not happening.
He's just not a good player.
He's not, man. Jazz beat the Pacers 118-88. They crushed the Pacers. They were led by 25 points from Donovan Mitchell, 20 points from Rudy Gobert, 16 from Bogdanovic. Here's another example, man. Royce O'Neal would be terrific for us. Royce O'Neal is underrated. They just re-signed him to a 4-year deal, $9 million per year. But he's playing 29.6 minutes per game, so he's playing a lot of minutes for them. He's only averaging 6 points per game. He doesn't shoot much, but he's shooting 47% from the field and 44% from 3. And he's also a really, really good defender. And he was an undrafted free agent that they signed in the offseason of 2017. He would be phenomenal for us. He has a box plus minus of a positive 2.6 right now. True shooting percentage of 62.5%. He also gets 3 assists per 36 minutes, so he can play make a little bit here and there. That's another guy, undrafted free agent, that has worked out for the Utah Jazz. I mean, literally, these guys are littered across the league. None of them are on our team. No, we have Mario Hezonja and we had Anthony Tolliver. Like that. I'm getting myself more frustrated because...
No people's mix.
What's he saying?
Just no.
What's he saying?
He said Kuzma and Green for McCollum. That doesn't even work financially.
Yeah,
but,
ew. What the hell?
But
hell no.
And then he's saying KCP, throw KCP in there, and Trent Jr. Like, no, dude. We're not trading CJ for Kuzma. That would be terrible. Yeah. And Melo Stays asking why Jeff Green is unsigned because he sucks now.
Jeff Green this year, let me pull up his stats here for you guys. Jeff Green this year showed that he's... Honestly, I don't think he was any better than Anthony Tolliver this year. 8 points per game, 38.5% from the field, 33% from 3. Those were like flashy, 8 points per game and 18 minutes per game. He shot literally 13 shots per 36 minutes, which is way too much from a guy who's super, super inefficient. His defense wasn't good anymore. That's a team that had been they've been successful with pretty much any lineup they've ran this year, right? But his offensive rating, actually this is best ball reference, so it's not that good. It's not accurate. Their offensive and defensive rating isn't accurate, so I'm not even going to reference it. But like he wasn't good this year at all. Inefficient, doesn't pass, doesn't defend well. Like, he's washed. He's not a good player. He's just a flashy name. Anyways.
What was the next game?
Last game, we had the Spurs beating the Phoenix Suns 120-118. That game came down to the wire. They were led by 25 off the bench from Derek White. They were also led by 24 points from Bryn Forbes. Another one of these guys. undrafted free agent, 3 years ago? And he's kind of struggled this year, but he had a big season for them last year. He's still a guy who can knock down shots and have big games. Last year he had a true shooting percentage of 59% and averaged 12 points per game for them, while shooting 43% from three, 46% from the field. He's kind of been in a slump this year, but still, I mean, we're not able to identify these guys at all. So, Devin Booker had 37 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. DeAndre Ayton had 25 and 12.
Booker shot a 3 at the end to win it, and he missed it.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Dame levels of clutch. Dame was hella clutch tonight. But yeah, so that's just some examples of some of the undrafted free agents that Portland, that Neil Olshey isn't able to identify. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are littered across the league. Instead, we'll sign Nick Stauskas before we sign one of those guys that I was talking about. We'll sign Mario Hezonja before one of those guys. We'll sign Anthony Tolliver before one of those guys. Like, just drives me crazy, man. It drives me crazy. Honestly, one of those guys could end up being Wenyen Gabriel. He might have just stumbled across him on accident.
Later, Dame Dollar.
I'll see you, Dame Dollar.
I don't know. I never like to say the accident thing, but yeah, it seemed like he was just throwing to make the salary work. But
exactly.
But I hate when people say, "Oh, he lucked into Nurkic. He didn't even want him." Like that.
I mean, I'm not even. That. Yeah, I'm not even going there. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. But that's if Wenyen Gabriel pans out, which is, obviously more unlikely than likely. Like, this dude's has shown us nothing on the NBA stage. I'm just saying, man, like, that's my biggest complaint with Neil Olshey. That is his biggest weakness, is he's not able to make moves around the fringes of the roster correctly, in my opinion. He focuses on either favors to agents or guys who are in their 5th year and who were a high draft pick a few years ago, and he like, oh well, he said this about Stauskas too when we signed him. He said, well, in our draft process, we identified him as a guy we really liked. Well, yeah, he was like projected to be a lottery pick, but what about the 4 years in the league? He's shown that he's not the guy that people thought he was when he was coming out of college. So why are you signing him based on what you thought of him coming out of college when you have 4 years? When you have a 4-year sample of what he's done in the NBA, which is a better indicator for what he could do for your team, which is in the NBA. Like, it doesn't make sense, man. That's his biggest weakness by far.
Yeah.
That's my rant.
People's Mix bring up Chandler Parsons. Yeah, hopefully he's okay. He got hit by a drunk driver in an accident, and it's probably going to be career-ending, it sounds like. So yeah, hopefully he recovers from that. But yeah, it's a tough situation.
I mean, yeah, hopefully his minds were right, because I saw something about traumatic brain injury. So hopefully that's not something that like lingers with him for the rest of his life. Hopefully he's not messed up for the rest of his life. He's set for life unless he completely wasted all the money he's made because he's in the last year of a 4-year. $100 million contract or so. Maybe it was $90 million, but like that dude is set for life. He can retire, hopefully he's good for the rest of his life, even if it ends up being career ending. That sucks, but I mean, just hopefully he's not, screwed up permanently from that, and hopefully he could still live what should be, a very good life after basketball for him.
And yeah, his career wasn't great, but most of that was because of his contract and people, but he would have probably signed for the minimum somewhere continued the next few years.
And he was a good player before he ended up having a rash of injuries. Like, when we were trying to sign him, we were looking at a guy who had been like really, really solid in years prior. Like he was very, very solid before his injuries. Let me go back and let me find his best season here. But at his peak, his 3rd year for Houston, he got 16.6 points per game, 5.5 rebounds and 4 assists. He's shooting 47% from the field and 37% from 3. So like that's a really good starter in the NBA.
There's another 2nd-round pick too.
Another 2nd-round pick. Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing, is like we could have went out and found guys that could have catapulted us into being a contender that were like unheralded at the time they were found. Do you know what I mean? Like if we could have just a Chris Middleton or a Joe Ingles or, you know, even some of the role players I mentioned would be like helpful. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having to like go into a season where we're talking about contending, but we're also talking about Mario Hezonja being projected to play 18 minutes off the bench. Like that, it's the biggest oversight. You know what I mean? This next offseason, I'm going to focus more on possibly like unheralded players than I ever have in the past. Maybe bring up some interesting names, seeing if I can like nail a couple of them. I mean, because there's guys like that all across the league. And this year, there's been a lot of guys that have blown up from obscurity, and it's just like it's never for our team though. It just sucks, man. Sucks.
Yeah, I'm still hopeful that we have some of those guys on the roster, though. I really like Horde's knack for getting around the ball. He had a couple of huge offensive rebounds when he was in there. Mm-hmm. He seems to always mix it up. I like his defensive awareness. Obviously, he needs to develop his shot. Same with Little.
Horde could definitely be one of those guys. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. And then, of course, Simons and Trent still have the ability to become that.
I didn't even like reference like early second round picks because I could have talked about like Devontae Graham. You know what I mean? I could have talked about a couple other guys. You know, Gary Trent Jr. was an early second round pick. I could have talked about like Malcolm Brogdon and, you know, I mean, you brought him up, but I wasn't even going to reference him because like you'll get some of those guys blowing up and being serviceable role players. So I'm not kind of like end of first round picks or second round picks. I'm talking about like even more unheralded than that. There's guys that you can find some serious talent, and Olshey struggles to do that. So
People's Mix is asking who would be the better fit for his Lakers, Darren Collison or Andre Iguodala.
Darren Collison. Their defense is already really good. They need an upgrade at the point guard spot more than anything. Darren Collison is a good three-point shooter. Has had multiple seasons, I think, where he shot over 40% from three. Doesn't shoot a ton, but like spaces the floor, can distribute. Like would be a good fit with that lineup. And I think he, is just as good as Andre Iguodala at this point. Maybe even a little better depending on like how much Andre Iguodala has declined because Iguodala's up there in age. So I think Darren Collison.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell though since neither of those players have played this season. Mm-hmm. You don't know if Collison was even like when he retired. Did he just give up basketball?
He said he retired to like go like.
Was it some religious reason?
Yeah, it was some religious reason. I expected him to end up wanting back in the league though. I'm not entirely surprised by that.
Yeah.
Right.
And Iguodala isn't even available right now, so.
Yeah.
At least not for free agent wise.
The People's Mix Lakers fans aren't this. No. So for those of you guys who don't know, the People's Mix is a Lakers fan, but he's
like a general NBA fan.
He's a general NBA fan, and he doesn't like throw it in our faces. He doesn't even bring it up. You know what I mean? Like he's very like chill. You know what I mean? You wouldn't even know he's a Lakers fan unless you saw him say it or unless we said it. So that's why we're cool with him. And he's I feel like he's a bit of a Blazers fan from this. He seems to catch some Blazer games. So Dame Dolla's back. He can't fall asleep. Damn.
Later, little Bakel. Have a good night.
See you, Bakel. But where was I going with that? Yeah. Sorry, man, but Lakers fans aren't that smart. Like, I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that to like your other Laker fans, your peers. So of course you got crap for that because it's the smart reason, but Andre Iguodala is a flashier name, the bigger name. So whoever the bigger name is, that's who they're going to want because they don't know basketball like beyond that. He says, "Oh, trust me, I know."
I think it might have been the People's Mix who retweeted this, but have you seen that Lakers Twitter that's like Lakers game film or something like that? No. People's Mix always retweets them. So they like break down film and like discuss plays and stuff.
I think I've heard of them, yeah.
So they had this thing where they were saying like on this play, Jared Dudley is yelling ice, ice and doing this and that. And Jared Dudley actually responded to him and he's like, that's not what I said. I was saying Dwight. and it was for this particular reason. It had nothing to do with what you were saying. Like, it was kind of funny that someone like breaking down the film thought they were like so smart about it, and then like that wasn't even like close to what happened.
That's funny. That's funny as hell, man. I mean, I bet it probably seemed like ice. Can't believe it too much.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Yeah.
But that account just seems like so cocky, like they know.
It seems like a Pinwheel Empire account that like tries to actually be like to analyze and break down the game.
Yeah.
Screw Pinwheel Empire though. If you guys follow them still after all the crap they've done lately, then come on. They don't deserve following. Neither does JP's Perspective. Chad Doing, I still follow him. Chad Doing is still okay to me. I don't know. I'm nowhere near the. I was a fan of his. Now I'm nowhere close to that. But like, I'm still like whatever. But JP's Perspective, Pinwheel Empire. Those are the two guys in this community who I can't stand, man. God, man. Especially Pinwheel Empire. Literally, when Dame unfollowed him, their account went downhill. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
When Dame unfollowed him, they became like a lot more bitter and like snarky and like annoyed and. Like, just, God, dude. I true Blazer fan, man. The fact that, like, he chose to align himself with them, just, like... So for you, those of you still watching, you can have some insight into my life here, into, like, something that annoys me here. And it probably something I shouldn't be talking about, would maybe hurt some feelings if some certain people heard this, but like, I don't care. They probably won't hear it. If they do, like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's whatever. It's not something that I, wouldn't be afraid would get out there at this point. I've dealt with so much crap from the community that I don't really care. And it's basically based on me dealing with crap. But, so, the whole year I worked with True Blazer Fan, he would get annoyed at Pinwheel Empire for not following him back. He wouldn't like say something to Pinwheel Empire. He'd would kind of mention it here and there, like, yeah, this guy doesn't follow me back. I don't know why he wouldn't follow me back. Like, I'm not trolling him or anything, and I got a big following. I'm like, no, and I tweet with him or I have interactions with him on Twitter or something like that. I don't know. It's basically something along those lines, and he doesn't follow me back. So that was something that actually like annoyed the guy who runs Two Blazer Fan, which I kind of get, I guess, whatever. It's not, not bad. But then he sits next to True Blazer Fan guy, sat next to Pinwheel Empire guy at a game. So finally Pinwheel Empire guy followed him back, right? So I leave True Blazer Fan. We were supposed to help promote each other. We were supposed to maybe, maybe do a collab here and there, maybe every once in a while. I don't know. We were still supposed to be like, cool, on good terms, right? All of a sudden, once I leave, like, he's shouted me out, I think exactly once. Never retweeted anything I've posted. I'm not even sure if he follows my Blazers Uprise account, which he got mad at Pinwheel Empire for not following him back. But then, I've worked with the man, but he won't follow my account, right? But then he aligns himself with Pinwheel Empire because Pinwheel Empire has, like, that big following. So now he does this, like, betting thing with Pinwheel Empire, and Pinwheel Empire has turned into this like negative toxic member of the community basically, right? And True Blazer Fan was always like, let's be positive, like everybody should be nice to each other, whatever, he was that kind of guy. But now he aligns himself with Pinwheel Empire, even though Pinwheel Empire is toxic, just because Pinwheel Empire has 10,000 Twitter followers. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but then won't even retweet or maybe even follow me back for anything like I tweet. You know what I mean? I know I'm more critical than he probably likes, but like it annoys me. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't know. Hopefully you guys could kind of see like what I'm talking about here. All of a sudden he like annoyed at him all year for not following him back. Then like once he gets a chance, he aligns himself with him. Doesn't even like try and retweet anything of mine or even interact with me on Twitter unless I, interact with one of his tweets. And like the dude just whatever. I'm a nobody basically, and he's gonna align himself with Pinwheel Empire no matter how toxic they are, just so he can possibly get a little extra money. Because if you notice, every one of his highlights he posts on Twitter has a advertisement on it. Every single, it could be a 10-second highlight, But true Blazer fan, if they post a highlight on Twitter, it has an advertisement on it. Every single one. Like, it's just kind of, I don't know, man. It's just, you talk about posting like 5 highlights from the first half. Yeah, it's cool they post highlights, but it's like, it'll be like 5-10 second highlights, and you'll see 5 SeatGeek promo code ads. You know what I mean? And then you think about, he's aligning himself with Pinwheel Empire, maybe so that Pinwheel Empire will retweet more of his stuff, and he can get more eyeballs on this promo code. But it's just like, it annoys me, man. It annoys me that he even aligned himself with Pinwheel Empire with some of the stuff like Pinwheel Empire has said on Twitter and like the way they've been, the way they like carry themselves and all that. I don't know. That just annoys me. Am I being like petty, or does that make sense to like be annoying to me?
No, it makes sense that you would think someone like that would want to grow all the Blazer community and have it all be together.
Yeah.
But it just goes back to like, it all comes down to whether your thoughts align with the other person's. So like, if you were a Stotts supporter, I guarantee you he would be pumping up your channel and doing that kind of stuff, right? If you're like positive about it.
Yeah, maybe, but
and Pinwheel Empire wouldn't have blocked you, and
it's just ridiculous. Like, but that's the thing though, is I don't know, man. Like, Pinwheel Empire, I think, is a bit negative towards Olshey. Am I right? Like, he's been kind of negative towards Olshey, right?
Yeah, but that's...
True Blazer fan doesn't like, he doesn't like really like much negativity at all, which is completely fine. But like,
right.
In regards to like Olshey too, like he was never negative towards Olshey either. So it's like, I don't think it's just based off the, being negative towards Stotts or whatnot. And I don't know. I post videos where I'm not negative or something. Dude just like literally wouldn't even give me, wouldn't even watch a single thing I post or retweet anything I post or even interact with me, but he's latching on to Pinwheel Empire, who he couldn't stand for a whole year and doesn't care about his negativity just because it just seems like just because he has 10,000 followers. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, and then he, just for the hope that Pinwheel Empire will retweet his videos and he can get traction on his highlight videos that he puts an ad on every single time. Like, I don't know. A SeatGeek ad on 10-second Twitter highlights. I don't know. That's just something that annoys me. Maybe that makes sense to you guys, but
see, I feel like
I'll see you later.
Like it's like universally accepted to hate Olshey, but not Stotts, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So like, everyone, if you bash on Olshey, you're cool and you're with the crowd. If you bash on Stotts, you don't know what you're talking about, and you're dumb and you're a donkey. Mm-hmm. Dame Dollars asked if you could ban John. We'll wait to see if he says anything else.
Nah, John, if you say any more crap like that, if you troll anymore, I'll literally just ban you. So like, there's no point for you to even troll anymore because your comments will stop showing up. So what's the point? Anyway, go on.
But like, there's this whole section of people who refuse to believe anything other than Stotts has done miracles with this roster and Olshey has done a terrible job of providing him with any talent to do anything, and that everything that's happened is because Stotts has done more with less or overachieved compared to the talent on his roster. And those type of people never give Olshey credit for any of that. It's all Stotts. And we're kind of the opposite, even though you've been fairly neutral with Olshey, that you've liked a lot of things and you haven't liked
I used
a lot
to be
of things.
really I used to be maybe even more negative towards Olshey than I have been towards Stotts. But I've kind of gone to neutral now.
Yeah.
A lot of it was like Olshey's like the way he would talk to fans and talk down to fans, and like it was more like his like tenor and the way he it's just like he like looked down upon fans and was super condescending towards them, and it's like that's why you have a job, is because there's fans of this team, so you know what I mean, like it's just kind of silly. But yeah, I mean I agree with that.
But yeah, like I guarantee you, if you would have been saying bad stuff about Olshey this whole time and nothing bad about Stotts, that you wouldn't have gotten blocked and you'd be pumped up by those guys,
Yeah, I know there's people that have stopped watching my channel because they didn't like my opinion on Stotts, which is fine. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be fake. I'm gonna bring my knowledge of the game to my channel, and you guys could disagree or agree. I try and be respectful to people that disagree with me on Stotts. I try and be open to other opinions. I mean, I was talking about it last post-game show with Eric Kleiser, how, I could see why some people, I brought up something that I think is a problem. And I was like, I can see why some people wouldn't blame Stotts for that. They'd kind of blame the roster. But I can also see, and I agree with some people that do hold Stotts accountable for that. I can see both sides of the coin. Meanwhile, you have these other pages that are Donkey City, Moronic Donkey Clown, Donkey, like, you know what I mean? Like, these 40-year-old men saying crap like that, man. And it's just like... It's just ridiculous. I could have taken the easy way out, but no, I'm not. I don't want to be like those guys. I could have easily, it would have been easier to just be like those guys and not put any thought into anything I say and say the same generic surface level stuff. But that's not why, I wouldn't enjoy and I wouldn't like respect what I was doing. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't take pride in what I was doing. I'd feel like a damn sellout. You know what I mean? So we're trying to change that narrative for fans too. And we're trying to change that narrative maybe for other content creators and maybe, I don't know. Like, this season hasn't gone as planned with the team, but it also hasn't completely gone as planned with the channel. I wanted to have some more podcasts. I wanted to do some more collaborative type of work, and I wanted to, like, do more on social media and that type of stuff. I wanted to do more in the way of, like, merch. Like, this hasn't, I want to do more in the way of videos. So, like, this season's been kind of rough, but... Hopefully over the end of this season we'll improve that a little bit more, improve some of the things I was kind of hoping for. Obviously, we're not going to have like 3 podcasts on here like I thought was the case. One of them isn't, I wouldn't say it's my fault. It was people, I don't know. It just wasn't, not everything's gone to plan basically. And hopefully like the end of this season and then next season especially, like we're going to kind of change the narrative for people and we're going to have, bigger follower base. So people that are, that's the thing is if we have more followers, we're able to educate more people and we're able to like get them so that they can think for themselves instead of just regurgitate the crap that the media gives to them, if that makes sense. If we can do that, we can change the narrative. The more people we can bring in like that, the more we can change the narrative. So that's the hope in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't blame people who like Stotts and think he's doing a good job and stuff. I just want people to Shrek, get it?
Be more open. Honestly, just be more positive towards other people if they disagree with you on Terry Stotts. You know what I mean? Like it comes from a well-intentioned place.
I just don't like the if you think it's not injuries, you're a donkey, you're an idiot, like or a moron or a flat earther, like. Those kind of things aren't helpful at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I especially hate it from people who haven't played like really a lick of basketball. You know what I mean? So they don't understand what we're talking about.
Those type of people don't even listen to what you're saying. Mm-hmm. They just assume you're stupid because you're saying Stotts did something wrong. Like you could take into the Philadelphia game for example, where you could just say Stotts messed up. He should have had L picks be switched in that situation, and then Korkmaz wouldn't have got an open 3. Anyone who's played basketball in that situation knows that you switch all picks with that much time on the clock.
Yeah, and if people haven't played if people haven't played basketball, and we say on air, like that's just something you do. So if people haven't played basketball, they can learn from this channel because we actually talk about that type of stuff.
And even on the Blazer broadcast, they're like, yeah, in this situation, you want to switch all picks. And, of course, they weren't negative or criticized about it afterwards when it didn't happen because they're not going to be like that. But, it's just a generally known thing. And they even mentioned that on the broadcast, like I said. So, if you bring that up, like Stotts made a huge mistake not switching picks, and then just be like, do you know how many people we didn't have in this game? Like, how could you even say that? Like, anyone who mentions Stotts is a dumbass, and that's not productive at all. I totally understand if you want to say that you feel like the roster hasn't been great built around Dame and CJ or whatever. Maybe you don't like CJ either, and that Dame Stotts has propelled a better roster, I'm willing to listen to that and hear what you have to say. I might not agree with you, but I'm not going to call you an idiot if that's what you think. I am certainly entitled to my opinion, just like you are. But yeah, it's just frustrating how all those people are just like think that you're an idiot if you say anything bad about Stotts.
Yeah. Yep. So hopefully we're going to change the narrative, man. The next year is very important for this channel. I feel like we got a lot of growth left to do, and we'll kind of change the narrative, kind of change, we'll become more legit. We'll do bigger and better things on this channel. So that's the hope, man. I have some ambitious goals, you guys. I got some ambitious goals. So we'll see. But I'm tired of the only big platforms on the internet all having the same attitude, the same condescending tone towards people who don't think that Stotts is an angel sent from heaven to be the best coach in the history of basketball. So that's the goal, is just to create more balance. You know what I mean? Just to create more balance, because there's no balance in regards to that. So, and that's the thing. I feel like the more we grow, the more people will be like, maybe I want to be a part of that movement. People with platforms, because I feel like everybody's just kind of conformed in a way, conformed to what the media thinks. So hopefully, I don't know. It's a movement. This channel's a movement, guys. It may seem like just a YouTube channel, but it's a movement.
I had an interesting morning the other day on Twitter when I woke up and read.
Talk about that.
So I woke up and read Dwight Jane's article in which he said, "I'm not an expert on this, but I got this from salary cap expert Tom Ziller on his site or whatever," and it talked about the hidden Easter egg in the Trevor Ariza trade, about how we could trade him at the draft, and then the team that traded for him could just waive him by the June 30th deadline and save all that cap space as a way to evade the tax or to cut salary or whatever.
Yeah.
So, of course, Dwight doesn't accept DMs, so I responded to him. I was like, "Dwight, he's incorrect. Please note this in your article. You're giving people false information, blah, blah, blah." And I had so many people message me telling me I was wrong and all this crap. And you don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He's an expert, not you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, what are you guys talking about? It's a rule in the CBA. I'm not making something up. So people are like, "Oh, provide a link if you're so smart," or whatever. And so I provided a link, but I still didn't have any way to get a hold of Dwight, and it was a couple hours later. Mm-hmm. And then I tagged them both in a tweet, saying, "Guys, you might want to take down this article. It's not correct information. They changed the CBA a couple years ago." And then finally Dwight just he retweeted his article with a revision and a retraction from the earlier one.
Didn't the cap expert change his article because of you, or?
Yeah, so so the cap expert made an addendum to his. He was like, "I was wrong. So you can't trade it anymore due to the new CBA rule." And then there was some other parts into it because he was talking about aggregating his salary as well in there. And so I was like, dude, you can't do that either. And so he made a change, and then Dwight referenced his change in his article, and he was like, "That's what I get for trusting my expert," or whatever. And so I was like, "Dwight, if you ever have any questions, you can always DM me or whatever." Mm-hmm. I doubt he ever will, but
but look at this is what I'm telling you guys about. Me and Eric have both studied the CBA, right? You have this cap expert getting what I thought would be common knowledge to a cap expert.
Right.
You have him getting this wrong.
It's Eric, a national guy. Yeah.
Eric correcting him and him changing his article because he was wrong. Eric was right. The national cap expert was wrong. Eric was right. Right? But Eric still had to deal with DMs of people. Did you DM people back and see he changed it?
No, I'm not that petty, but
Do
yeah,
it, do it.
like,
People need to realize. I mean, like I would have done it. I would have been like, see, you shouldn't be out here calling me out. Just because I'm not like some big name person doesn't mean I can't have as much knowledge or maybe even more knowledge about this type of stuff than somebody who is a media guy and a cap expert. You know what I mean?
It drives me crazy that like national guys don't take their time to like read the CBA or research things and stuff like that. Like it's all out there. You can read every bit of it. It's kind of boring to read, but I'm kind of a nerd with that stuff.
Same way with me. So we know that stuff really well. We're basically cap experts, I feel like.
And what's really hard is there's so much language in there. Like even if you read it, it's kind of hard to like decipher exactly what it means. So like there are still like I'm not perfect at it. Like I'll never be perfect. Like I'll always have questions or like things I probably get wrong with it. But yeah, it's when it's basic stuff like
you corrected Nate Duncan the other day too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, People's Mix bringing that up. So he put Hood as his most likely to be traded, and he didn't even know that Hood had a no trade clause in his contract or whatever.
Yeah. Because he basically re-signed a 1-year deal because he has a player option for next year, so it only counts as a 1-year deal. And when you re-sign a 1-year deal, you basically have a no trade clause. And then if you get traded, you
forfeit your bird rights
or your early bird rights, I think too, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So Nate Duncan forgot that. Eric knows that. I know that. We know that. Eric's out here correcting people. But like that's stuff I feel like I know this stuff too, you probably just weren't like if you would have seen that or read it, probably would have been there too. Like me and Eric in the past couple of years have like, I mean, Eric's helped me like learn like the stuff I didn't know. Like I knew a lot, but he's like filled me in. I feel like on the stuff I don't know. So I feel like we both know it like really, 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 really well. That's why I was saying this is your number one stop for trade deadline coverage, because you got media guy Chad saying, oh, they made this all they got out of this was just extra money. So this is horrible. We're just going to try and save money. That's the type of coverage you get there. Meanwhile, here, literally, I hadn't even heard a report, and I'm like, okay, they're going to end up getting a $7.2 million traded player exception out of this. They're going to, you know what I mean? Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, like hardly anyone's talking about that trade exception. We have that for a year now. So like next season, we could bring in a player for $7 million and not have to send out salary and stuff like that. That's a huge asset to have if we use it. But I mean, who knows if we'll be in a position to use it. But yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. Like that's why this is your number one stop for trade deadline coverage, because we know this stuff really well. We can break stuff down. We know players really well. We know other players better than any other media guy in Portland media. Like that's the thing is like I'm not trying to hate on them, but we do a ton of research. We do a ton of we've studied the CBA. We've put in the time to be able to be good at this. You wouldn't think that's the type of coverage you'd get from just a YouTube channel, right? But
yeah,
it's not even like our jobs, but we put in a ton of time into learning that type of stuff. That's why it annoys me when people who it's like our actual jobs, don't know that type of stuff.
Right. So, yeah. Like I'm not even getting paid for any of this stuff, and I'm correcting people who do that for a living, right?
Yep.
But so Mellow Stays asking, can we trade exceptions? So the answer to that is no, technically. But basically, what happens is you can't combine the trade exceptions with anything. So if it was $7.1 million trade exception, you can go $100,000 over it. So you could bring in anyone in the league for $7.2 million if the other team wanted to dump their contract on you, and you wouldn't have to send any contract back. You have to include like cash or a second round pick or the rights to a foreign player or something that isn't in the league. You have to do something to make the trade official. But why I say technically not, because if a team trades you a player that's worth $7 million, you don't technically trade the $7.1 million trade exception to them, but it creates a new trade exception for that team. So they would actually end up with the same trade exception of how much ever the contract was that they traded out.
I think I can, I think I can explain it just a little bit better. When you say you have a $7 million trade player exception, you use that to bring in a player making $7 million, you basically use that traded player exception. So that doesn't exist anymore. You use
and it goes away
for yourself in order to bring in that player making $7 million. But if the team that traded that player making $7 million, that would create a $7 million traded player exception for them. So you technically can't trade you can't trade a player exception, but you can help another team create the same level of trade exception, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And then Zach, so it can't be combined with anything. So like you couldn't trade Caleb Swanigan and the trade exception for someone making $9 million in that situation. You can only use it to the amount it was. And we had this a few years ago when we traded Crab. We created like a $13 million trade exception, and Tori and I were going crazy for a year trying to think of all these different scenarios where we could use that trade $13 million to get a first round pick or take on a bad contract or do whatever. And then we just let it go unused, which usually happens with a lot of these trade exceptions. But I'm hoping that this year they're creative with it.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Don't LMAO when I'm... Ignore me. Hell no, don't ignore me.
Melis Daves, what is the maximum amount of trade exception you can have? It would technically be possible to have a $20 million trade exception. I was actually going through some scenarios where we traded both Whiteside and Bazemore, but only took back like an Otto Porter Jr. And in those cases, we could actually create like a trade exception the size of Bazemore's contract, which would have been like $19.2 million or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's obviously off the table now. But it was possible for a while.
Yeah, if OKC traded Chris Paul, like say a team had like $50 million in cap space, maybe it's the offseason or whatever, and they trade Chris Paul's $40 million salary into that cap space, then OKC would get a $40 million trade player exception.
That'd be so insane.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Atlanta Hawks next year.
Because you can actually split up traded player exceptions for multiple players. So say you had a $40 million traded player exception and you used it on a player that makes $20 million, you'd have a $20 million traded player exception left over. You know what I mean? It wouldn't erase the whole thing. You'd still have $20 million left over. So you can actually split it up. Nothing like that has ever happened to that magnitude, but there's no like limits on size, because it's basically just created by whatever contracts are traded and however much, it's basically the deficit between contracts outgoing to incoming.
And technically the Blazers created a trade exception with the Jake Layman trade, but it was there was some sort of weird rule since he was like a restricted free agent or something that it only counted as basically the minimum. So it didn't
I forget what the conditions on that were, but I don't think either of us knew that.
We could probably use that to take on the Wenyan Gabriel contract, which is probably why
I think we did.
We're creating the 7.1 instead of 5 million or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're basically just tools to I don't know. That's the thing. We used the disabled player exception to take in Swanigan. We used the Jake Layman traded player exception to take in Gabriel, so that meant we were basically only taking back Ariza's $12 million while sounding out Bazemore's $19 million. That created that $7.2 million traded player exception. Then we also traded out Anthony Tolliver, which created another traded player exception for him, which is about 1.7 million.
And it's kind of like cap space, only you can't sign a free agent with that. Unlike the Hood exception, we can't use it to sign someone unless it was like a sign and trade type scenario. Yeah. But we were over the tax last year, so we couldn't bring in a sign and trade player without being hard capped, which is another whole discussion for another time.
Yeah.
Yes, we will have a podcast on Wednesday, right, Tori? Since there's no game till Thursday.
How much are you willing to pay me?
Huh?
How much are you willing to pay me to have a podcast on Wednesday?
Well, I'll do it without you if you're not going to have one. I'm not going to miss.
Oh, yeah, you're logged into my account. Crap. Okay, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do a podcast on Wednesday.
But yeah, so it's kind of like the way the CBA words it is you're basically making a non-simultaneous trade. So like in this particular trade with Bazemore, we sent out more money than we took back. So the trade exception is just at a later date filling the rest of that salary in, if that makes sense. So it's salary you initially had. You just didn't use it right away. You used it for something else at another time.
Yeah. It's basically, you can kind of view it as cap space, but only for trades, if that makes sense. Like, it's obviously not cap space, but it's basically, you can bring in somebody without having to send anything back, without having to match salary. So we'll, what were you saying?
Well, important thing to note about that is the last few summers, there's been at least one team, if not more, that have ditched a player, maybe not as low as $7 million, but there's been players that have been sent out for picks. Like last year, you had at the draft, Phoenix give Memphis TJ Warren and the 32nd pick in that draft, which ended up being very valuable with how much those picks. I think Memphis traded that for 3 second-round picks or something like that to Miami or something like that. But yeah, so you can use that to take on a contract too and pick up a pick. That's why I was so mad that we didn't use that situation for the crab trade exception. Because a few weeks later, Denver traded like Fareed along with picks and Wilson Chandler with a pick. We could have used either of those guys that season, and they got picks for taking those guys. So I mean, the Chandler was only a second round pick, but like still, that would have been helpful to have.
Yep. Yes, we're still. Why is my chair sinking? What the hell? My chair just randomly sunk, man. I have my feet kicked up on the corner of my desk and everything. Yo, what's up, Blazer Life? Yes, we're still live. No, we haven't been drinking. Damn, we've been live for 2.5 hours already. All right, I didn't even realize.
Thoughts on Artisan Pizza? What? Ariza Pizza?
Hey, I'm impressed that we still have 60 viewers and it's 12:30 in the morning, and we've been live for 2.5 hours. That's impressive, man. Shout out to all you guys. Artisan Pizza. This should be named Basketball Rules 101. Yeah. So what I want to do in let me raise my camera actually. What I want to do in like May probably. End of April and then into May, and I can like work with you on this, Eric, because I want to make like a CBA 101 video series, because in the future, like that could be interesting for you guys just to learn more about the CBA if you want, but then in the future next year I do want to have a website and I do want to have people writing for us, so that would be a useful tool for them to like learn the CBA, so they can that can help their content basically. Because I don't want if I have a website, a Blazers Uprise website, and I have people writing for me, I don't want people like getting CBA stuff wrong or not really understand that type of stuff. So that'll be like a helpful tool for me for them, but it also could be entertaining for you guys. Short little 3-minute, 4-minute videos. They'll just be on like a certain topic, trade exceptions or just certain parts of the CBA, and then after a while, hopefully, like you guys would have a good understanding. If that maybe a better understanding, and we could do some, I don't know, we just figure it out. That could be something interesting to do going into the off season, just to, because we won't have games or stuff to cover. No, People's Mix. So anybody who's interested in writing for me, I know a couple people emailed me in the past because I've talked about it. I know I wanted to have a website live by this year. I'm just going to make it next season so it's not rushed, and it's going to take some work, and it's hard to focus on that in season. So that'll be an off-season focus for me, something I'll focus on in the summer. But if you do want to write for me, it's not paid. I can't pay you guys. I wouldn't be really getting any money for the website unless it like completely blew up, ended up like Blazers Edge or something like that, which would be awesome. Maybe then could even then then you guys would technically be like employees and all that type of stuff. So it's basically just like if you want to volunteer to write for it, you'd have the opportunity if your writing's good enough. That's the thing. I'm not just gonna let anybody write for it. I want it to be like has to be a certain level of quality in terms of grammar, in terms of your knowledge, in terms of that type of stuff. But
People's Mix would be coming in with Embiid trades all day.
Yeah, and he'd say WTF pause between every paragraph, and Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want any article based on the Blazers should do this trade for Joel Embiid. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be like, any trade ideas, trade talk, be like realistic. That's the thing. Any trade ideas, I'd probably have people like approve with me first. But like, I just want it to be like just a high level of quality, if that makes sense. I've shown my worth with the thread, so that'll be something in the future. That'll be cool. But yeah, I'll do a CBA 101 series throughout the off season for you guys. We love
Call it
people.
Slice.
Yep. So that'll be cool. And that's the thing, like, if we like scripted like 3-minute videos so that it was explained well, then like you could record it or I could record it. We could work together on like the script and the like types of stuff we cover. That'd be cool. I think I haven't seen anybody do that on YouTube, so that'd be cool. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, if you do want to work for the website, I would probably include like a tip jar for you if you were interested. That probably wouldn't. I don't know if that'd really result in anybody like tipping or anything like that, but I could give you that opportunity. And if people did tip, it wouldn't be a ton, but I mean, maybe I could compensate you guys like that. So, Zacho says, I've never got lower than an A in writing and I'm in college. I hope that suffices. That's pretty good. I mean, I just have people submit, a practice article or two and like ask them a few questions, and it's not going to be like something like too strict.
Zacho gets an A in writing sarcasm 101.
Exactly. Mr. Sarcasm right there. Yeah, so I mean that'll be something cool. I do want to do that next season. Like I said, we're going to be expanding next season and trying to achieve some goals of mine. Also, forgot to mention this. So Mellow hoodies should be going on sale Wednesday.
Ooh.
But they're only going to be limited edition. They're only going to be on sale for like 3 days. Okay, so maybe it'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I was thinking Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would make sense because we have our podcast on Wednesday. Can make them go live then our Thursday postgame show, Friday podcast. The thing is like people have sold like stuff with like Mello's likeness on it before. I've gotten cease and desist letters, so I don't even know how they'd find me with one of those or how they'd send it to me, and I'm not trying to risk getting into like some legal trouble. So maybe I shouldn't be saying this on air, but if they find it, then whatever. I'm not making much, and if they want to sue me for my profit, then fine. I'd give them the profit or whatever. Yeah, I got some Mellow hoodies. They're going to be limited edition for that reason. Stuff we sell in the future is not going to be limited edition. Just this Mellow hoodie as the first hoodie will be limited edition. I found a good like place where I can set up an online shop and sell those. And then we'll have a Blazers Uprise hoodie, a logo hoodie coming in February. I could come out with that probably February 1st. That's the goal. The People's Mix. If the Rockets continue to struggle and Harden demands a trade, here are 3 trades the Blazers can offer to potentially get the deal done. Yeah, no, wouldn't have anything like that. RIP Blazers said trade Ariza in the 2021 for Rocco, trade Whiteside in the 2020 second round pick for OPJ. I mean, that'd be the dream, but I think it'd take more to get Rocco. That's why I was trying to take on Jang, think that they'd want out from his contract, but they view Rocco very, very highly. J.R. Smith, no to J.R. Smith. No to J.R. Smith, man. J.R. Smith is so washed and so overrated and does not play defense. He'd look super hot running around meaningless screens. Yeah, at least Harden would look like he's moving. He could run around in a circle. Why is P-Town overboard on everything? I don't know what you mean by that. But yeah, we'll have our Mellow hoodie going live on Wednesday. And then Blazers Uprise hoodie or Blazers Uprise shirt, maybe even a Blazers Uprise hat going live like February 1st is going to be the goal for that. I've just hesitated whether I wanted to put out a Mellow hoodie or not. And I didn't really know what platform I wanted to release it on. So I've been teasing that for a while. I've been teasing that for over a month. I've just been kind of like struggling with that. But now I found the platform. Now I found I'm just going to do it limited edition. So hopefully I don't get in trouble. Wednesday through Friday. And then February we'll get a Blazers Uprise. Like I think our logo would look sick on a shirt. Maybe I'd brush it up a little bit. But what do you think, Eric? Just the Blazers Uprise logo, the new modern one? I think that looked good on a shirt, even a hat, or I don't know.
Dude, yes, please. I want to wear one to a game or like
that'd be awesome, man.
On our podcast and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you guys could wear it around, you know what I mean? Like, you guys could represent the community, the platform with that Blazers Uprise gear. So I'm looking forward to that, man. It also will help us out. We'll keep the prices pretty low. Just, I don't want to overcharge or, make it too high. So we'll keep the prices reasonable. It'll help us out. You can represent the community, get a cool piece of apparel. So that'll be coming up. I'm really looking forward to that. Released on the dark web. But I will announce... I will announce Wednesday whether it's going live Wednesday or maybe it takes like a couple days to go live. I'm not sure with that service, but I'll figure it out. So I'll follow up with you guys on Wednesday with that Wednesday podcast, which is our next live stream. We don't stream tomorrow, which is kind of nice. So I should be able to get out that mailbag. Got Blazers Pulse coming tonight too. Blazers Pulse episode coming tonight. Haven't dropped one of those in a while. So got some stuff coming up for you guys leading up to the trade deadline. Looking forward to that. So with that, we're going to sign off for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this stream. Damian Lillard dropping 61 points tonight. I'm going to go watch the full highlights of his 61-point game. And I'm going to relax, finish the thumbnail for this Blazers Pulse episode, and start working on that mailbag for you guys. So anything you want to sign off with, Eric?
No, just awesome game from Dame. Thank you, Dame, for blessing us with your presence on the Blazers, and we're not worthy. Thank you.
Yep, 100%. Very sentimental. But yeah. So about to go watch those full highlights. I'm excited to watch these full highlights. Dame popping off on the Warriors for 61 points. So stay tuned with the content. We'll see you guys Wednesday with the live stream, with the podcast. We'll be back with our podcast then. So until then, we'll catch you guys later. Peace out. Go Blazers.